What's up, everybody? Welcome to Café LeBlanc podcast number 22. Today's episode, let's talk Megaten Oziach. That's
What is up?
Thank you so much for being the second person to be here in this kind of experimental podcast still going on. I'm really excited to talk to you. I think a lot of people are. You were the second most voted person on the thing that I had ongoing, which, by the way, I didn't mean to put it like that. Some people got really competitive on the when I had the voting thing. I just wanted to know, like, hey, I see there's some people that have some popularity here. Like, who wants to see, like, in a conversation or anything? And people are like, you better vote for Oziach. You better vote for these ones. And I'm like over here like,
No, yeah, it's ultimately not a big deal. I think I jokingly quote retweeted it. Even though I got second, I just quote retweeted it. I'm like, I got destroyed in this poll.
Yeah,
it's not a big deal.
Like, oh man, I better go defend my boy right now. It was hilarious to me, but at the same time, I was like, I hope I didn't like start out like a fandom war or something. Because like some of the people were like, oh, I better vote for this person, and I was like, oh, okay.
Better vote. The losers of this poll get their house set on fire.
Yeah. And I was like, it's funny because like I was talking to LaRue about it as well, and he was just like, yeah, I mean, I just shared it. I didn't expect to get as many views. And LaRue was like, he's just really well liked. I think he's just like the perfect amount of chill in Twitter, which he's just like, yeah, he's just there, but he's not really. He's like significantly inoffensive. So I don't know. I think he's just people just like him. Anyway, as far as yourself, you've been doing YouTube for a minute now. When did you start the channel?
This channel I started. I guess I opened it the second I started working on my first video, which took like 6 months because I was balancing it with school. But I started actually posting in June of 2019, and oh my gosh, that's been 2 years. What the heck?
It's already 2 years. That's crazy.
Oh man.
So 2 years now, and that was your first video. Now you said this channel. So you had other channels prior to this one?
Yeah, so I have like my own private channel where I have like a massive stockpile of really dumb skits that I did as a kid, whether it's like me like getting recordings of PlayStation 4 games like Infamous and just screwing around in that, or an embarrassing amount of webcam skit videos that I made with Microsoft Word, or not Word, Movie Maker editing.
Movie Maker, yeah, oh, dude, I remember those days. I was there too.
Yeah.
When I was younger, it's funny that you mentioned that because I do have a channel like that people are not gonna look for it. I don't have it private either, but I have a channel that so my channel idea was literally the same time the one that I had last time. So fun fact, my channel is the reason why it's called the Minute Channel and not just like Kuro or something like that is because it was supposed to be a channel with other friends. So the idea came up with I wanted to have like a channel with other friends that I can talk to about anime or video games, and I really just bullied my friend into buying a PS Vita to play Persona 4 Golden. So the whole thing is me making a joke about the game, the channel being the Minute Channel is a joke about how I bullied my friend into buying a PlayStation Vita and a Persona 4 Golden to force him into play it. Because he was just not into the game. He was like, oh, I don't want to play the game or whatever. But finally, like I was like, dude, I'm gonna take you to GameStop. I want to get a fucking PS Vita today.
You are going to play this game.
Yeah, you're fucking gonna go and I love it. So that's literally what we did. So like the whole thing about the channel is literally just an inside joke between my friends. But before that, we actually did a channel where we were just trying to do like discussion videos and let's plays, which is kind of what I do now. But between other people, within like 3 friends that I had and everything. But between scheduling and like going to college and everything, it's really hard to like get adults together for like things like that. And even with the call-ups and everything, you're like, oh well, I'm free on Tuesdays, and I'm like, oh, I work on Tuesdays, so like that's gone, So that never really panned out. Although we did a bunch of videos, never really took off. Like I think we had like 3 subscribers, and like it's funny because I look back years later, and I had like one video that had a ton of views and a ton of comments, and people were even like thinking like, oh, this channel seems to be like dropped, you know, but like I like the style or whatever. I was like, that was like 10 years ago. Like I guess people people like actually like interested on the channel, but because we dropped it, it just never went anywhere. And I was like, oh man, that sucks, because it looks like people were like, the one video we did get a lot of comments about like how like they were interested on the channel, but they saw that it was a dead channel basically. And I was like, oh.
That's the thing with mine, because after my first video, I didn't release another one for another like 7-8 months. And initially, like, you know, it's a first video, whatever, like, it wasn't really noticed by anyone. And I wasn't really like, if I wanted to make a video, it's just super casual, like, I have a fun idea, this will be neat. Which that's still basically the basis of my videos, but it wasn't really like, I need to get this video done. So I started working on a video in November, and then from that point onward, coincidentally, like I've been casually doing it, but like through the next few months, people all of a sudden started popping in like 100 more people, like 1,000, like 10,000, like out of nowhere. And they're all like, wow, this video is great. This channel is great. It's too bad he literally has only uploaded once and it's been 7 months. I'm like, I gotta finish this next video.
So the next video from there, it's like, it's funny because if you go look in your thing, it says 2 years ago, the one video, and then ranking Persona 5 characters a year later. It's like 1 year ago. So I don't know if it's a year
there was
ago,
a bit of a gap.
like, there's a big gap there. But then from then on, it looks like you've been pretty consistent as far as doing more content. Although, I mean, I'm sure you try, but it's kind of hard sometimes, right?
Yeah, it goes in waves. It'll be like a month or two passes. It's like, all right, here's like 3 videos at once or something like that, or like 2. And then a small little drought. I just go in little bursts whenever I can. I attempt consistency. It's a process.
It's definitely a process, especially with your style, because you do have a particular, I think, different style from a lot of the people that do YouTube. Because it's just also something that I was talking to today, as far as like, man, a lot of people are doing like discussion videos, like the type of that I do, or like the news videos, which is also something that I do. And I'm like, but I see some other channels like your channel or Little Roost channel, which is like significantly different from everybody else's. Like you have definitely you know, you have
a couple of discussions in there.
Yeah, but you do, but you also have like, it's more scripted. There's the stick figure type of thing, and then you do have like really funny kind of skits in it as well.
That's the thing. I've come to terms with the fact that, because I constantly say this thing where I'm like, you know what, this next review, I just want it to be chill. I want to get back to some other projects. Like this review, I'm gonna make it simple, straightforward, just like a classic review as best I can. And I sit there, I'm like, no, let me just make a normal video in my style. And I've come to terms with the fact that I guess I'm an animation channel. I think the work I do is just, I'm just keyframing everything here.
I mean, it's understandable. It's just, I guess once you start like picking up a style and people recognize you for that style, it's also really hard to kind of just be like, oh, well, I'm going to dump that. I'm just going to do something else. Because you don't know how the audience is going to react to it too. Like that's also something that sometimes I'm like, oh man, like I would like to do something different, and then like I do it, and then like the video just doesn't perform for a reason, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go ahead and drop back into what I was doing before.
That's the thing, because like certain things like that, it'll be like you want to change your style or whatever, like kind of considering it, and it's like ultimately like the thing I do right now, it is really fun. I really enjoy it. It's just draining. So it's kind of that like balance of actually getting stuff out without dying in the process.
Right. Yeah.
And then some videos I'll be like, this is either going to get 100,000 views or like 1,000. And then it hits 1,000. I'm like, okay, well, next video.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I'm like on the sense that I like, some videos just do great. You know, like they just, you put them up and you're like, oh man, this, but sometimes you're like, yeah, sure, this video is just gonna do good because of the topic or like the type of video. You're like, oh man, this video is a banger. But then once in a while, like I have that thought, like, oh man, this video is a banger. And then I get like, there's some videos that I have that they just made like 100 views, and I'm like, man, this video is it's a hidden gem. So at some point, this video is just gonna be unearthed, and people are gonna like it because it's a good video.
I have a running gag, because this isn't even like one of my least popular videos, but I have a running gag in a lot of my more recent content where whenever I kind of like point towards any of the videos I've been working on or like kind of my library of videos, I'll always point at the first April Fool's video I made and just be like, by the way, secret banger, mega underrated, watch this right now, just without mentioning it in like the audio. Just like big text, like watch this. Because that is probably one of the most insanely stupid videos I've ever made.
Yeah, so I and then what is frustrating, I don't know if you ever tried those, but there's this new thing in YouTube called the Shorts. And it's just like, basically a TikTok, right? So the other day I do some once in a while, and like those do stupidly good. Like I'm like, what the hell? Like it's a meme. Like it's like a 30-second thing, and it gets like a bunch of views, and I'm like, and then I might work on an actual video, and I'm like.
That's the thing. It's YouTube in its entirety can best be summarized by, I want to make content that's a little more focused and more effort filled, but it will not get as much focus as the very, I guess, quote unquote, throwaway random videos I shoot out there.
Yeah, of course. It's like the reaction videos. To me, reaction videos just do good. Every time I do a reaction videos, I expect a couple thousand views. It just happens. But then sometimes I'm like, oh man, like it's like you see them between other videos. Like I see them sandwiched between other videos, and I'm like, like it's a really jarring difference. It's just funny. It is what it is. It's part of the YouTube grind, I guess. And I don't know. I love it. It's kind of weird, but I love doing YouTube. It's just a weird thing of like, I love putting the effort and just seeing sometimes like it's not even like the fans or anything like that, but it's really just like seeing people's reaction to it, like the comments. Like I know some people are like, oh, I don't like reading the comments. I love reading the comments. We were just talking about shitty stupid comments, and I love those comments. I just love them. I see something dumb and I'm like, I'm gonna pin that comment.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. Friggin', I don't know, because kind of like what you were saying, YouTube, just kind of like the creative output of it, and also just seeing how people kind of like resonate with it, whether it's, you know, positive or very weird, funny, dumb comments. Like there's something, I guess, cathartic about it that I like. It's not even just, I'm building fame. Yes, YouTube money. It's like, I don't know. It's just enjoyable. I don't think either of us are exactly like raking in mad cash.
Right. You're like, oh man, I'm not getting rich out of this or anything. It's not in the point that anybody can live off of it yet. Like at least not us in this time. Like sure, maybe someday if like the numbers go up or anything. But like I think some people like see stuff like, oh, collectively, my videos just do. In a collective, do good. Although I'm uploading every day or something. I used to do that actually. I started a channel doing daily videos, and I was like, I need to stop this.
Just need that break.
Yeah, it's like I need a break from this. I just read this comment that I have to read it out loud. It says, "I'm smart. I'm smart. First off, a Persona 5 is finished after like Persona 5 want to return character." Persona 5 story, very, very end, mean. It.
What?
It says, Persona 6 will be different. Character story in school cannot be the same characters. If Persona 6 visit Persona 5 Easter egg, hope not, lol. It's like nonsensical stuff like that I'm like, this broke my brain.
It's like, I get what you're almost trying to say, but maybe...
I'm like, I sent it to you. It's really funny. When I get comments like that, I love them because, like, they first of all call themselves smart, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're doing. Like, I understand what you're trying to say, but it's breaking my head just, like, trying to make sense of it.
Man. No, yeah, I've gotten... this one, I mean, it's not offensive, like, I guess saying this. But I got a comment once that utterly baffled me that I don't know how to even address. I didn't bother responding to it. It was someone, I think, talking about one of my Okumura videos, where all they responded with is, if you it was my palace ranking because I brought up Ryuji getting beaten up at the end of Shido's palace, and they just responded with, "If you think Ryuji getting beaten up is bad, clearly you're not black." And I'm like, what does this have to do with anything?
Yeah, that is a really like a weird offhanded comment. You're like, well, that has literally nothing to do with the channel or the video or.
Yeah, sometimes I'm just wondering what goes through certain commenters' heads because I'm genuinely just curious. I'm like, where's the cipher for this?
Yeah, like what's the point behind that kind of comments? I totally understand that. Yeah, you see some kind of stuff sometimes, and you're left wondering, what the fuck? What did I just read? Speaking of that video that you mentioned just now, the Palace ranking video, that's the first time that we spoke, right? Because you commented on my video that you were like, right. our videos are significantly different, and I was like, I have not seen his video. Like, at least I had seen your video for Komura Palace, the very first one. Yeah,
because that one got spammed. Yeah, everyone
spammed everybody. So I saw that. So I was just like, oh, he has another video, and I was like, oh, he has a ton of videos. So like, I sat down and watched that. I was like, yeah, they are very significantly different videos. But that's how I got to know you. Actually, that was like the first time that we had an interaction on YouTube.
No, yeah, because that was around the era I actually started, I guess, like reaching out to more different like content creators and actually talking. Because I think it was back to back. The first like podcast I did with another content creator was with Spencer from SMTN. Like a little bit after that video dropped, and then literally like later that night, it was me getting dragged onto another podcast. Spencer was just like, "Oh yeah, by the way, do you want to do a podcast with Kurokaze from the Midnight Channel?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure." We were talking about E3, and I didn't have much to say.
I remember this. I remember this. That's really funny. Yeah, that was a good time. I think we were just like, I was trying to like just like you, like I was trying to like get more connected with like other creators, and I was like, man, like, because I didn't really like use Twitter at all. Like I was telling you earlier, my Twitter is like a repurposed Twitter from like 10 years ago that I barely used. But I was like, I'm too lazy to make a new Twitter handle for like this, and plus the Minute channel was already taken, so I was like, I'm just gonna use whatever I have.
Sure, I'm Kuro. It's fine.
And so I reached out to. No, I didn't even reach out to Spencer. I posted on his Facebook. I was like, "Does anyone want to be on a podcast?" And and Spencer's like, I find it mildly offensive that you know who you are.
Oh, was that your first time talking to him?
Yeah. I just went into his group and asked if somebody wanted to be in the podcast. I didn't know he had a podcast.
that podcast, in retrospect, is kind of nuts because it was you, me, who was like dead tired because I had already recorded like a 3 Spencer, obviously, who I guess it was your guys' first talking to, and I had only just talked to him that day, and so fan site was there.
Yeah, Fancy was there, yeah. And I don't know, was it David was there too? I don't even remember.
I don't think he was there for that one. I think it was just us 4.
Yeah. Because I had I had you guys 3 on that podcast. That was crazy, yeah. That was my second podcast ever. Spencer, because again he took really big offense that I didn't ask him about it. I was like, all right, Spencer, like I was like, I have no idea who you are, but okay. Like I really didn't know that it was his group or anything. Like I was just like, I just want to know, like, some people are interested in it, because like I never really interacted with the community prior to starting the channel, which is really weird, I guess, for some people, because some people live in the internet and they're like, they're always like in the community. Like I see them tweet out all day and everything like that, and like I never interacted with the community at all. Like I was like, I've been a fan for the series for a long time, but like the most that I will reach will be like, oh, maybe like a post here and there. Like I will follow some pages on Facebook, and like read the comments or share the stuff. But I really didn't like. I even heard about like the Persona community, like bad stuff and everything, and I was like. It was non-existent to me. So like I was like, like I like the games. I like to play games and everything. I
guess.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say something funny along those lines that I kind of noticed that you just kind of made me think about is like with the onset of Persona 5, like obviously the community of Persona became a lot bigger, a lot vaster. Like it became a much more, I guess, a mainstream fandom.
Yeah, for sure.
But another thing that I feel like only just hit me is the onset of Royal for some reason felt like that was when the actual community of content creators started to weave together more.
Yeah.
So like that's when like King Narukami started talking more with like David Cass and like, me meeting you, meeting Spencer, like different people just interacting, getting a lot more entwined. Like it's never in the content creator scene has never felt more interconnected than now.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, like I don't know why. I think it was the perfect time for everybody. It was in the middle of the pandemic. What am I gonna do? I just have so much free time and like Persona 5 and Royal and all this stuff going on. I guess it was just like the perfect time to do that kind of
Honestly,
stuff.
it probably was the perfect storm of COVID hitting exactly when Royal did. And it was, wow, I need people to talk to this about. Let me see who online is willing to do a discussion.
Right, yeah. Like I said, I just didn't know anybody. And like the first thing that happened actually was, who was it? Oh, David. David went and commented on one of my videos. And David actually had like 20 subscribers at the time and like 2 videos. So he had literally started his channel like a week or 2 ago. And I was like, oh yeah, but he was real nice. He was like, he commented something and I was like, oh man, he's being super nice. So like I was like, I should like talk to him. So like we started talking. I follow him on Twitter. And then I was like, oh, do you want to do a podcast? For some reason, I was just like, and then that's when I was like trying to reach out to other people, which I know Fansite gets a lot of bad rep, and he did have some pretty stuff that I don't really want to discuss because I wasn't involved in that.
Yeah.
But to me, he wasn't a bad guy. He really helped me like when I was starting. He was like, oh, you should talk to this person and this person and this person. They're all good guys. Like he talked good about you. He was like, oh, you should talk to Ozzy. He likes he will like to be in a podcast too and everything. I was like, oh, and like there's a lot of people that want to be in the podcast, and like he at least helped me like network and everything. So like I don't know what happened or anything like that. I wasn't involved in that stuff. So
that's the thing. Like because I used to like be decently close with Fansite, and not to like get into a whole like tangent about him specifically. He did have his own like I guess issues to deal with that I hope he's actually getting resolved. But he was very effective at the time in getting different people connected when it came around that era. And by the time people did get connected, he got booted out of the community, which
yeah. So, like, I really don't even know what happened. What like this like happened overnight. And I guess because I had him on the podcast, like people were like asking me about it. I'm like, dude, I don't know. I don't know who any of the people involved were. Like, I just really don't talk enough to the community to like really like know every person. Like,
and it's like ultimately we don't know people like like him like super personally, so it's not
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So like, I just couldn't answer either way. Like, I don't know these people. Like, I had him on a podcast twice. Like, I don't know him. I don't know what his name is. I don't know anybody. Like, so to me, it was just kind of like one of those like, oh man, I saw it. And I was like, oh man, that's pretty fucked up. But also like, I have no idea what's going on. It's like more like a confusion kind of thing. But in other things, as far as what is your creative process as far as like making a video? How does the ideas come up for you to start a video?
It's kind of anticlimactic, I guess. It is just me either like obviously having my like reviews and stuff like that, but stuff like I think a good example like either like my first video with the the Okumura Palace like analysis, or me like ranking all the characters, but in P5, but at the end it randomly becomes like a stupid game show. It literally boils down to me just coming up with like some like I'll come up with something I want to talk about. That's like simple. It's like I had a fascination for a while. I don't even know why with that palace with Okumura's, and I was like, I want to make a video like this, but I really like how I was really inspired by like Sequelitis by Egoraptor, and I was like, I kind of want to do something in that style, talking about Persona, because I hadn't seen anyone like really talk specifically about one section of that game before, other than I guess like comment on social links, whatever.
Right.
So I decided to go into that, made that. And the second one, I was like, yeah, I want to rank all the characters. I think that'd be cool, but that's kind of generic. All right, what if I trick my friend into doing this, and then at the end, I just socially pressure them into like a really dumb game show, and it's like that, and it's just back to back, just come up with a dumb idea, and then see how I can make it even more like either weird and crazy or dumb or like compelling, whatever. So it's just start with like a base concept and then explode.
Fair enough. That sounds like a pretty cool idea. So, was there anything that prompted you to make that first video, the Okumura Palace? Like, were you just like getting wrecked in the game? You're like, man, I'm really fucking. I need to make a video on this.
That's the weird thing, because I feel bad that I don't remember as explicitly. I just remember I played through P5 in like a couple months after it released, first Persona game, whatever. I went through it. That palace didn't leave like a awful impression on me. I was just like, that kind of bugs me. It's a little tedious. And then over time, the more I kind of like thought about the game, I just kind of got this idea of like, man, this palace is like really mediocre. Like it does so many things like wrong. And I kept saying, because for a while, I kind of mentioned this before the podcast. I had on Wattpad of all things, sort of like a blog kind of thing where I would just like review different games or just talk about whatever opinions I had or like do little rants. And I have a small community with that. And that also, like I said before, kind of took some inspiration from how like Egoraptor did his Sequelitis videos and kind of how to argue things.
Yeah.
And so the next logical step for me was like, I want to see if I can make a video like that just for something. I wasn't sure. I was originally thinking kind of doing like one of my blog subjects like that. And then kind of the two merged together, because that's when I started to get really into Persona. And I was kind of tired of my blog, and I was like, I want to make a video or something. They merged together. From then, I think it was about a year straight, or nearly a year, of me constantly telling people in my little friend circles I'd made in the Persona community, like, you know, I'm telling you, one of these days I'm going to make a video about the Okumura Palace. Tell me the things you do like about it, and tell me the things you don't. I'm collecting all this info. And I remember even like the friends I'm still with today, they were like, you know, it's kind of neat, but like, he's not going to do this. Kind of just like a running gag, haha, which is kind of what I felt in a way. And then one day I was like, I'm just going to make it.
Yeah. So,
and then it happened. I guess.
Yeah, that's the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah.
So interesting. You know,
I will note one little thing, kind of a little thread I left behind there. The reason I mentioned like I'm still kind of confused on why I cared so much is because me actually researching into the palace for that video and like looking into it made me realize that most of my conceptions about that palace, it's not that they were like wrong or made up. I just like didn't even know as much about it as I thought I did. So I ended up discovering more to criticize through that, but most of my original points were just like, you could sum them up in like 3 sentences.
Interesting.
And become an hour-long piece. As you were saying, though.
Yeah. Oh no, I was gonna say for me, actually, like my first video. So I don't know if you know a little game called Fallout 76.
Yeah, boy.
So I'm a fan of the Fallout games. Being a huge fan of the series for a while. So. That game was announced, and that sounded like a terrible idea from the get-go. Like it just sounds like a really fucking bad idea for a game.
I mean, but, I'll give them credit. Those first like E3 showings they had of it were really good. It made it look like a really good time.
Yeah, it made it look like it was a complete game. Not only that, but they also flew people. and they played the game and they were hyping it up. Like I know a lot of these YouTubers would like you to believe that we're like, oh no, but I'm like, no, I remember seeing those videos, my man. Like I knew they were hyping it up, and it's like I get it, like they fly you to freaking West Virginia and they have like all this shit, and they're really hyping you up for it. So I get it, I get it, but so like I saw the hype and excitement. I was like, I really want to check this out. I was really skeptical about it, but I was like, I really want to see how this game's gonna turn out. So I got into an early beta before the actual beta came out for everybody, and I guess like that was the same one that a lot of the reviewers got into. So I saw their videos, and everybody was like, they were still like very excited and very like still like hyping it, and I was like, yo, no, this is wrong. I was like, I need to make my own video. So for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, I'm just ranting about how shit the game is. I was like, look, this game comes out in like 3 weeks. It's not gonna be done. It's like, they're not gonna fix anything. Like, this is not a beta. This is a demo. And this game is just gonna flop massively. And that was like my first video, and like he didn't do like super good or anything like that. But I told my sister about it, and she was like, "Oh, you should do more videos." Like they sound very passionate about it. And I was like,
kind of just like get your foot in the door.
Yeah, like I enjoy doing that. And funny is like I didn't really consider doing Persona particularly. Like obviously like the name of the channel is named after Persona, but I never was like, oh man, I'm gonna make a Persona channel. Like that wasn't like never my intention or anything like that. But I did a Persona video, and it didn't do well. Like it like I think you know what? It was a rant as well. Oh shit! All those videos are rants. The very first few videos. This one is on the dancing games. I was just like super mad about it for some reason.
You suck, stupid DLC.
Yeah, it was just like a mixture of like. See, what happened is, I purposely didn't like look at trailers or anything like that because I didn't want to like spoil myself, but I really thought the games were gonna be like the Persona 4 dancing with like a story or anything like that.
So, which is why you tried not to spoil yourself. Yeah, because on Persona 5 and 3 dancing.
Yeah, because I was like, oh man, these are gonna be like the other games. Like I haven't seen the cast from Persona 3 in a long time. It's my favorite cast, so I was really excited for it. I literally actually cosplayed on that like the stream, and you can see my excitement going from like, oh, I'm really excited to like just really fucking disappointment. You can see that live.
Who'd you cosplay as a Makoto?
Yeah, Makoto, yeah. And then like I did it for another. I think I did also Joker when I played Persona 4 dancing, and like you can see like I'm so fucking dead inside. Like my face is just like of like disappointment. Yeah, so like that was that, right? I was like, and I just had to make a video, and I was like, I just need to talk about how I feel about this because I feel like those games didn't meet their full potential. There was like, it has a lot of potential. I feel like Persona 4 Dancing is legitimately a good game. Like I'm not a fan of the random games. I've never been a fan of random games. So to me, like, the only reason to buy those games is because you're a Persona fan. But to me particularly, dancing part, like
I don't even think I'm gonna be honest. Like I appreciate those games for what they are. I don't think they play extremely well for rhythm games.
Yeah,
but I don't. I think with P4 dancing or just P4 in general, like that. We'll see what happens with P5, but P4 got like an awesome send off. Like that game was a huge celebration, which like helped make it work.
I think it's also how fun Persona 4 is as a game. Like if you think about it, Persona 4 is like
go lucky mood.
Yeah, exactly. He just has the mood for it. Like it's so fun and exciting and everything. Like sure, there's murders and stuff like that, but like the tone of the game is always like fun and let's hang out and like like it's like. To me, like that game is nostalgic, and it's not nostalgic in like like when I used to be a child or whatever. But it's just like the hanging out and like them going with your friends and doing stuff, or like when they go to the beach trip or like that kind of stuff. Like all of those stuff is like it's so nostalgic to me. So like when I see that, I'm like, that's like the good teenager, vibe, I guess, because Persona 3 or Persona 5, they don't really have that,
That's the thing, because like I adore like obviously the P5 cast and the P3 cast more than the P4 cast. But if any game was going to get like all those spin-offs of just like the random stupid adventures, it was going to be 4 at the time, at least. Like it.
Yeah.
They just have that dynamic that it's just like they can do literally anything and I'll believe it.
Right. It's part of. I mean, for God's sake, they had a fighting game. Once you see that, and then the Persona Q game, you're like, I mean, it just makes sense. Like I see it, and I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. Like it's nothing. It doesn't feel like out of the ordinary. I don't know. Dancing for Persona 5, kind of still. I was like, oh, it kind of. I guess Then for Persona 3, it was just like, there's just no way.
I think because like the 3 and 5 cast, I believe more so like. The 5 casts are more chill about it, where it's like, I guess I could see them doing a dancing thing like this, but they're more so, we have a mission to do, let's go. And then especially P3, like, they don't even really start as friends to begin with. So it's just like...
right. And even when they picked the kind of like time period where they picked on the game, it's like, it's not even when they're even close to each other yet. So like it's like pretty early in the game, so you're kind of like, oh man, like it's a really awkward time for them to have chosen. So I don't know, it's an awkward game to me. It's like a really awkward game. Like I see it, I'm like, it's just not really a.
It is the most, I guess, like in a proper terminology. Obviously, there's like Persona Q and stuff like that, but it feels like the most fan servicey game because the only reason it exists is because Persona fans would want the Persona 3 characters to dance and get remixes. And that's just kind of it.
Honestly, man, whenever I saw that, I was like, my initial first thought, this is going to be really bizarre, but my really first thought was, when we saw the first trailer for Persona 3 dancing, I was like, what if we took Jesus and just had him dance on his grave? That's what it was like.
No. We have to make it more accurate. Jesus is gonna dance on a rooftop.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know. Like when at first I saw it and I saw the Makoto dancing, I was like, that's just
so funny.
That's just insulting.
That is the thing of it. That did just hit me. Because Joker, you have dancing in Shibuya Square, like perfect sense, like. Chill, like iconic place, just like more casual setting. Makoto really did dance on that roof, huh?
Yeah. I was like, whenever I saw that, and that's like literally like that's where he dies. In like the spoilers, I guess, if you haven't played Persona 3.
If you haven't played Persona 3 dancing, it's a spoiler.
I started. I was like, "Oh man, this is like the weirdest. Like, this is such an awkward moment." But also, like, nobody else actually. I'm probably the only person that thought of that. Like, that was like my first thought.
No, that's like, really
good. I don't know. I just like, I don't even know why I thought that. I was just like,
I mean, it's toned down.
Yeah, it really is. But again, that's probably the only person that like thought about it like that. Probably some people were like, it's funny, he did the gun thing or whatever. I don't know.
I'm not gonna blame you. I think most people though were probably just distracted by the fact that Persona 3 was still gonna be relevant in the P5 era.
Yeah, right. That was a weird one. I think I got a lot of people hyped for like the wrong reasons, because that was when I saw people starting rumors about Persona 3 getting a remake, which we still, it could still happen someday. I don't know. I don't believe that it will, but like I feel like that's where really it started. Like it picked up where people,
because they made the new models.
Yeah, they see the new models. I'm like, oh, like those models look cool. They better do something with those models. So like I don't know.
It is weird to think about though, like. Because obviously, like, P4, once, like, Dancing came out and, like, on the onset of P5, it was like, yeah, like, goodbye, P4, you had a good run, it was really cool. But ultimately, in, like, a more meta sense, it almost feels like, all right, so P4 is going to be in the second player slot from now on. And then, as far as we can tell, Persona 3 is dead the moment P5 releases. But right. No, the series ironically, it seems like the series is embracing more of its past now than ever.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what they're gonna do with the 25th anniversary.
Yeah,
not so for excited. That only thing, just like it. I think like it has so much potential for a lot of stuff. Like, I know there's always been like this ongoing joke about like Persona 1 and 2 and like, oh, it doesn't acknowledge them or something. I just felt like it wasn't the right time. It wasn't like they weren't acknowledging it, but like if you look at like the time frame, Persona 1 and 2 are so far apart from Persona 3 and 4 that they're like it's a big chunk period of time.
Yeah,
and you're fine. Like it's a big period of time. People, like, but now you see it from the other hand, and like with Persona 5 and everything. I just think like we're gonna see more things. Like probably like go back to more of the past and everything. I feel like they're gonna do something with Persona 1 and 2. For us to what, I don't know, but I really don't think that Atlas was like, oh, let's forget these games that never existed. Because I don't know why some people just really believe that Atlas just want to bury them or something.
That's the thing. Like, I'm not going to go on this tangent for like the 5th time or whatever. But again, people do forget that Persona 1 is still the 2nd best-selling Persona game. Like, there has been and is an audience for bringing that game back, or like Persona 2, like those are widely beloved games for the people who have played them. Like, they are not just dead in the wind. I don't think Atlas finds P3 that much more marketable than like Persona 2, for instance. Like,
right.
Obviously I think they see it more so, but like I don't think it's as big of a divide as people imply.
Yeah, I think it's more like the community thinking that more than it actually being a thing. I think people see it and like, oh, it's not really that way, but it makes it feel that way. I think some people just feel like that. Zero communication with the community too. So
yeah,
so you kind of left off wondering like, okay, well, they don't say anything. So
I think it's like Atlas doesn't even talk about P1 and P2 anymore. It's like, yeah, because they're not doing anything with it right now.
Yeah, but own like things between each other, like, they're divided and everything. So I think a lot of people just, it's not like Sony or Nintendo or like all these other bigger companies where like really just like it's one big company. Like Atlas West is really just a publisher. They just publish games in the West here in English, and now in other languages too. But it's different again from like other, like you hear like Nintendo America, whatever. Like it's still like that's still a publisher, but it has like more ground to go through than something like Atlas West, I think.
Yeah, and they also actually have like more involvement in the creative process relative to like something like Atlas West.
Yeah. So like I always see the port beggars, which is my favorite time to look and
shout outs to King Goomba, my boy.
King Goomba, it's just, you know what? I respect the grind, man. This guy, he never misses. He's always there. Honestly, when I don't see that he commented, I'm like, yo, is he okay? Like, what happened to him?
All I'm saying on the note of King Goomba, I don't know if he's a troll. I don't know if he's legitimate. I don't care. The grind is real regardless. And I think the funniest thing, especially like whether or not he's a troll, is his demands have slowly gotten more and more aggressive over the past year.
Yeah, I think it's funny because he started just like asking for like the ports and everything, but nowadays he's just like he really just demanding. He's like, we the people of the internet demand.
I'm trying to remember what he said one time where he like blew a gasket on like one Atlas post where he was like, we don't care about this. We want Persona 5 Royal on Switch. We want Persona 4 Golden on Switch. We want Persona 3 FPS. We want Persona 1 and 2. I'm like, yo, he's naming all of them. He's on a roll.
Yeah, he was like, I think he was one of those Catherine posts. I think it might have been that.
What?
Yeah, because I remember seeing that. I was like, I even remember seeing a bunch of retweets about like calling him based or whatever. And I was like, oh man, this kid is just he's fucking ridiculous. You know what? I don't care whether he's a troll or not. I just find it funny. Like he's like one of those things in the community or whatever. But like
he's a constant.
He's just there, and it's funny that he's there. I know there's a lot of talk about him and like other people and what they say or whatever. To me, it's just like, oh, you know, he's funny. He's in the internet, and I laugh at him and what he says. So that's as far as I take that.
Yeah,
I honestly, in like a goodwill kind of thing, I don't really care too much.
So, all I'm saying, I doubt it'll ever happen. But if it somehow became possible to interview King Goomba, I'm all in. That's all I'm saying.
It'd be one of those. It's like, honestly, the Twitter burst will break over here. People will go nuts for the interview with King Goomba. Oh man, there's a lot of interesting people that I see them like commenting and stuff. I kind of know them. They don't do anything on like YouTube or anything, and they just comment on Twitter. So like I see the same people. I'm like, oh, you know, they're pretty involved in the community and everything. I admire that. I always admire when people are like always like doing, but I also like, what do you do for a living? You can just be on Twitter all day. I don't know, like
always at the press of a button. They're at like their day job, and the second they get the push notification from Atlas, they already just type up a massive tweet in like 2 seconds.
Right. Like I'm like, how do they do that? Like I know I have like the notifications for like the Atlas stuff. So like I get those, but I still like I'm working, I'm doing something, I'm working on videos or something. I'm like in the middle of doing something, and I'm like, oh, there's a new post, let me retweet it. And then I see like all these people already retweeted it. Like the first day that what was it? The Shin Megami Tensei 5 pre-orders came out live. That was a total disaster, but it was also really funny because like to me, like I was kind of frustrated. I actually made a video about it, which I did pretty well, but I was just like, I was frustrated because I asked to have my lunch on that time, and I was just waited. Like I didn't eat. I was just sitting in my car. Like it was hot. It was like 110 degrees outside. Just sitting there waiting for this thing to pop up so I can do the pre-order. And like I wait the entirety of the time. I'm like, I don't want to start driving. Like I need to go right to get some food. But like, what if I start driving and they go live? You know, like I can't pull out my credit card in the middle of the road and like, start like typing numbers or whatever. So like I just have to sit there and wait and everything. So I wait and nothing comes up, and I'm like, I'm getting really frustrated. And then like
headline: Atlas makes young man starve to death.
And then like I wait for like 2 days, and like they finally drop, and they get sold out within like minutes, right? And I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I was like, they drop at a random time, like nobody knew what the fuck was going on. But they like Twitter is just blowing up, you know, everybody's just like telling everybody, oh yeah, they're live right now or whatever. And I'm like, I
hate special editions. I'll just say in general, like the same thing happened with what was it, Metroid Prime Dread, or not Metroid Prime, just Metroid Dread, where that game had a special edition announced, and I'm like, oh cool, let me click the link on this. Wow, this really just got revealed. It was already sold out. I'm like, how?
Right, exactly. I always see that, and I'm like, man. And honestly, it's just really like, pretty shit, because a lot of them are scalpers. My video, the one video that I did talking about that, and they were just a bunch of scalpers making fun of me, and I was like, fuck you. Like sincerely, like what the fuck is wrong with you? Like you don't care about the game. You're really just trying to get the money or whatever. I don't know.
You know, it would be very nice if more companies embraced like a made to order, like I guess model for that stuff of, you know, we see how many pre-orders we get for the special edition, like in this given period of time, whatever amount we get, that's how much we make, and go with that. And that'll be the death of scalpers for the most part.
Yeah, they also should like limit how many they can pre-order per person. Because like some of them, like you see them, you're like, man, this
people literally buy hundreds.
Yeah, like Like the same thing happened with other things that happen on sometimes, like PlayStation 5, for example. You hear
Oh
all
yeah,
this
no,
crazy
that's
shit
still
and everything.
horrible.
It's still pretty fucking bad, but you see it and you're like, you know, there's bad time when comments have like hundreds of likes in just my video. Like the comments just have a ton of likes. You're like, holy shit! Like people are just very mad. Like, and most of them,
Yeah.
they weren't even mad. They were just disappointed. You know, like I think a lot of people were just waiting for the game. Like, oh, you know, I'm trying to, you know, find it. And I even felt bad for people like in the UK because they didn't get to pre-order until like a month ago.
Yeah. And that's the thing with stuff like that, with like a special edition, especially, is like, it's fine if, you know, it's a little costly and like, you know, not everyone can actually get it, but everyone should have an opportunity to get it if they're
yeah, exactly. And I don't know, this was just a fiasco. I feel like I really hope that they learn from this, because I don't think they realize how big the brand grew. Because I think I know, you know, like they know for a fact that Persona is big now. You know, like oh, you know, like you can see the numbers, you can see the numbers on just the views alone on like their trailers or whatever. But I think like actually thinking that Shin Megami Tensei was also gonna be like popular, or like people were gonna be interested. I'm like, well, there's no Persona 6 right now. What do you think people are gonna buy? The old games, and if there's no old games to buy, the next thing is the next Shin Megami Tensei game. Like it's just process of elimination. You're not pulling out a lot of content right now.
That's the thing. Like there are still people kind of like fighting against this point, but I like genuinely this game's gonna be huge.
Yeah,
like this is going to be one of the biggest RPGs we've had in a while.
Yeah, I think so too. I think like this also works well because of the time period right now. Like we haven't had a lot of RPGs this year, like in general, like 2020, and then you have other big series also come out, like Neo the Worlds with You, which huge. A lot of people in the community were already waiting for that, and then you have a new Tales of game after like a minute that we haven't had one. So,
I've heard that game.
This is
great.
like
I'm
the
happy
great
for
time
Tales
for
of
RPGs where people are just like they're just hungry for RPGs. So like not including like the fandom of Shin Megami Tensei that have been waiting for a long time for an RPG. So yeah, I don't know. It's awesome. I'm just really excited for the game. If anything, it's just because of the community. Like I love seeing the reactions and everything. Like every time I make a new video and like a new video comes out and people just comment or whatever. Like I love seeing their reactions and everything. It's cool.
Did I break? I might have broken. All right, we're back from being dead.
Yeah, technical difficulties, but it's good. It's all good. So Shin Megami Tensei 5. I don't know. Is this your first Megaten game, or did you play Nocturne?
I played Nocturne. Actually, before that, I had played Strange Journey. Strange Journey was the first Megaten game I played after P5, I believe.
Oh, dude, that's a hard game to be your first Megaten game. It may be the hardest Megaten game.
It was definitely a jump. Honestly, like that game was neat. It actually wasn't the most jarring thing. But, you know, I applaud the people who love Strange Journey. It's a very cool, neat game with a very good story. I don't know why it bores me.
What happened?
It bores me a little.
It bored you? Wow, interesting.
It's not even bad. I wouldn't call it bad. I don't know. It was just like it didn't. I think it was the combat. I just found like, and still now, I just find the combat kind of lackluster compared to other Megaten games.
Mm-hmm. It did some difference. It did really different stuff from the other Megaten games. Because mainline, it's still, it kind of, I know a lot of people, this is going to be like really controversial, but mainline just plays like Persona, or like Persona plays like mainline. Like there's only so many variations that you can do with that gameplay. You know, and it's like, I don't know, you play Nocturne, right? Like it plays really similar to the other Persona games.
Yeah, like they work differently, especially like with like 5 onwards, but ultimately like press turn and like baton pass or whatever aren't that different.
Yeah. I think the difference is Baton Pass is more biased towards the player. It just like allows you to do some crazy stuff. On the other hand, playing anything that is on the press turn, it's unforgiving, and it's not unforgiving like, oh, it's like mean to the player. It just basically, imagine if you're, to the listeners who have not played Megaten, imagine if the opponent could also do Baton Pass every single time, and like they actually knew how to utilize it to their advantage. Because sometimes you get Baton Pass, you're like, I'm just gonna choose Ryuji, he's right there and besides me, but there's like no legitimate like train of thought, like you're not actually like strategizing or whatever. But on the other hand, like the computer knows how to strategize every single time. So like if messing up once is just completely gonna fuck you up for no reason.
You know what? I'll say this much, because I got the terminology confused for a second. The baton passes are different from SMT. Before baton passes were a thing, with the one more system, it was basically
the weakness, one more. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The only difference added with baton pass, though, is that now you get to choose which party member goes next if you want to.
Oh yeah, that's even like a whole other type of bonus. Like, there are layers of strategies that you can do. You can really break the game, but in like Megaten, like it's just like, sure, there's some leeway that you can do some pretty crazy stuff too. For example, in Shin Megami Tensei 4, when you do the one more or the press turn, it makes you not susceptible to criticals for that turn. So like if you finish your round and your enemy goes and they have a high critical rate, which a lot of enemies do, you end up kind of saving your own ass there. So like there's like even strategy on that end. So but then on the other hand, if like you mess up and your enemy hits you with a critical and they get a one more, then are they not susceptible to criticals. Sometimes it's even hard to like actually hit them. So like they like glow like a yellow something, or, so like if you mess up, you really mess up. But sometimes you just don't know. Like there's a weakness. They hit your weakness. You're like, well, I guess I'm gonna restart the battle again, or like when I have to start like the last 10 minutes of what happened. And
the Megaten combat's fun. I just think like, with Strange Journey, I appreciate it trying to be different without like how it actually executes kind of like the like press turn-esque system. But like because it's like alignment based, it ultimately makes it so half the time you're just relegated to using like only a third of the demons, and the others is just like don't even bother or else you are losing.
Yeah, it's an interesting game. Although I don't like the gameplay too much, and the sectors are a real pain in the butt. I really like the story.
The story in that game's great. I'm not gonna diss that story at all. Yeah. I just think the gameplay, like, I actually didn't mind the sectors as much as a lot of other people.
Oh,
because
I really
no, I don't blame you. But then I don't know. I like Persona 1. I'm way less obnoxious though. I don't know. It's just, I think the gameplay of that game is just a little too boring and tedious in my opinion, but there is still a lot that makes it worth playing. Like, it's not a bad game by any means. I'm just like...
Yeah. Also, I love that we have a Hispanic on the game. I'm like, I just love that there's like so much representation on that game.
Oh yeah.
It's like, you have like an international team of like the most badassest people on earth.
No, yeah, it's a friggin' awesome. It's probably the coolest concept for an SMT game.
Yeah, that's why when people talk about like Persona in like the UK or something, I'm like, you know what? There's a chance. Like if Strange Journey exists, there's a chance. I always come up with that. I'm like, I see people are like, oh, like it's never gonna leave Japan. I'm like, I mean, why not? The other mainline, that game is mainline. So like, if that's possible, then the other things are possible.
The more Atlas broadens their horizons with like where they decide to, focus these things, the more they have to work with like creatively. Like they can experiment with a lot more stuff if they actually branch more out of Japan. Not to say there's not a lot to work with in Japan, because like Strikers makes that apparent of like there is a ton of different environments and inspiration you can get from within, but there is even more you can get outside of it. And I don't think Atlas isn't aware of that.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But I'm also not worried about that either. I think that they and this has nothing to do. It's like I don't think it's a bad thing, but Japanese in like as general in culture, it's just like really stuck in like a specific mindset. So it's kind of hard sometimes to like get them out of like their original specific mindset. And that's for everything. Like a lot of companies, just like Nintendo, for example, sometimes they really struggle to like make certain decisions because they've been doing it for so long, so to them it's like, if it's not broken, why fix it, kind of thing.
Your decisions are going to be built upon the culture you're in. So
so like I know for a fact, as somebody that moved from a different country, I know it's really hard to like adapt in a situation. I can't imagine a big corporation that suddenly found like really big, like I can't imagine being Atlas, like like having like these games that are pretty niche, like Shin Megami Tensei and Persona. Even Persona was kind of like it's a anime simulator or whatever. Like even that, like it was never like a big series where people were just talking about it. Like not the fact that Joker is in Super Smash big, like nothing like that, so
and now SMT5 is the most awaited game in Japan.
Like I mean, it outbought it to people that haven't seen that list. It outbought it Pokemon. Pokemon is the official mascot, Pikachu particularly is the official mascot of Japan. So the fact that it outbought it Pokemon, it's insane. Like that's big, insane numbers, and not just Pokemon the remake, but the other game, the Arceus game too, Final Fantasy 16, which is also another big awaited game.
Dragon Quest.
Yeah,
I think
Dragon Quest,
there, right?
which is also that's also in there. So like we're talking about like big franchises. We're not talking about like they outnumbered some other JRPG that nobody knows or whatever. Like we're talking about like really well-known properties that like people love and everything. So like that was insane to me. I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Like a lot of people point to like P4 as like the game that gave like Persona a lot more of its popularity, even though it's like wasn't even the best selling at the time. Haha, Persona 1. But like Persona 5 onwards was what pushed the series like into the mainstream. It is now a actual like staple front-facing series. Persona and SMT, both of them are just like, I don't know. Yeah, it's Megaten time.
Yeah, I think people are also like, because of the way that us did Persona 5 with so many like Persona 5. We literally had a Persona 5 game, I believe 4 years in a row. Persona 5, then Persona 5 Q, the Persona Q2, then the dancing game, and then Persona 5 Rojo, and then Persona 5 Strikers. I mean, we literally had 5 games within the span of 2016 up until 2020. So, like, we had a game every year. So, like, I feel like a lot of people, like, the Persona fans that really went through all that, like, we're ready for another type of game. Like, I'm personally, like, I'm really excited to play the game. Not that I hate Persona or anything, but I'm ready for a palate cleanser, if you will.
Like, I love Persona 5. That's my favorite, like, favorite cast, whatever. Just favorite game in general. Even then, I think, like, obviously, like, fanboy side of me, I'm like, yes, more. But, like, reasonably, I'm like, I think I can take one more, like, big Persona 5 spinoff and then call it quits there. Like, we're good. That's, I don't even need that. We could stop right here and I'm fine.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's one more in me.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's one more game that I'm willing to kind of go like, one more game. Give us that trilogy of Persona 5 and kind of wrap things up for them. Give them a good send-off. Move on into other things.
Because I don't even need something like on the scale of like Strikers, which is just like a full-on like action RPG sequel.
Yeah.
I don't I just kind of want that game that has like that, Persona 4 dancing aura, as we were describing before, of just, this is a final like celebration send off. Mm-hmm. We can't do that with P5 dancing because they kind of blew their load early with that.
Yeah, they did super early. That was a big mistake. And I know even Atlas looks at that and they're like, oh man, we released that game way too early. Like Q2 was fine. It was the perfect time for that game. But I don't even know that.
It's obvious why they did that.
Yeah.
It was by far the easiest.
Yeah, it was super easy. They were already making, I believe, from what I heard, they were already making Persona 3. So they were like, oh, we'll just dump some characters, like, we'll get some music remix, we're done. Kind of thing. I get it. It's not the best effort game.
That's the thing. Unironically, it's funny. The way they marketed that game and put it out was just every attempt they could possibly make at getting Persona 3 dancing to sell, which it still didn't. But it was basically just, look, we're putting out this one alongside Persona 5. You guys remember Persona 3, right? The quote-unquote cult classic everyone loves, that no one bought the dancing game for.
Yeah.
But you all remember that, and you have to buy this if you want the Persona 4 dancing remaster too.
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of people just, I don't know. It was a weird time for Atlas. I think that's when they first started that popularity rising, and they just like, oh wait, we gotta cash into it. Like I feel like that was the thought where like we better sell something before like the popularity dies. Or I feel like that's what happened. I think they were looking at it and we're like, the popularity is gonna die, so we better go into it now so we can get some sales out of it. I really don't think they expected the sales and the numbers that they see now, and I just don't think that they know how to react to it because they haven't had like something like this before. So like, especially like you look at Persona 4 Golden, right? You just kind of randomly released, and then from then on, we haven't seen anything. We're waiting. I think everybody's waiting for like a console Persona 4 Golden. Some people are waiting for Persona 3 on PC. Some people want Persona 5 Royal on PC.
That's the thing. It's like Atlas is adapting to now being in the spotlight, and it's kind of like I'm a lot more sympathetic towards their plight because I'm just like, I get it. It's an adaptation phase of them actually like being bigger because we remember like the change from Atlas USA to Atlas West, like having a broader scope because they didn't need to be as specific with that. Mm-hmm. Like them going back and like bringing back their classics, Persona 4 Golden, Nocturne, stuff like that. Like they're gradually going through like whether or not they're super successful with it, like trying to fill that role that they're now put in to satisfy as many people as possible to build the brand up even more.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it'll take some time because even like SMT5, they were like, yeah, so we'll make Persona 5 in 2016, and then SMT5, I don't know, release like 2018, 2019, soon after, and then P5 actually like exploded their offices.
Yeah. I think it was really unexpected, but again, I think some changes it just takes a while, especially for big companies and everything. Because it's not like you can just. I think a lot of people also like don't consider this. Like, sure, they could release something, right? But what if it doesn't go well? What about their losses? Because the thing about Atlas is they've been on like borderline bankrupt like a few times, not just once. Like they've been, I think, almost about to go bankrupt twice, and then they actually went bankrupt, and they would go bought out by Sega. I mean, they didn't go bought out by Sega for fun. They went bankrupt. So I think a lot of people like don't realize that like they just didn't have a good time before. So like every decision that they make, they know that may be their last game. I think the reason why Persona 5 released the way that they did is because they put everything and the director was like shocked of how well it did in the West, because being a really big political game that it is, if you look at it from that lens. The game is really critical of Japanese government, and and I think they didn't expect that kind of thing to like click on the West.
I find it funny because there are a lot of people that like point to the fact of like, oh yeah, Persona 5 is trying too hard to be political or like doesn't actually say anything, which like I guess that's your opinion, but like it is undeniable like that game compared to like most other, if like any other Megaten game, is just like we have an actual real to life message about like society.
Right. I think if one thing that I will say about Persona 5, it's the scope of some of the things that it discusses, it doesn't take enough time to like really explore that subject. For example, I really admire the first 10 hours of the game because they did such a good job as far as exploring, you know, like the corruption in schools, sexual abuse, suicide. Like they really explore 10 hours to let you marinate into like the environment of like a Japanese school from a different perspective. Because I think what they did is they give you the picture of Persona 4, which is like, oh, you know, we were at school, you're hanging out with friends and everything, and then deconstruct the idea of the Japanese high school, and like they give you like the other side of the coin, you know, like, oh, you know, like, yeah, these are the popular kids, but what about the kids that are not popular in Japan? Like they're shunned because they're different, you know, like all this stuff. Like those subjects were really well explored, and they really give you that perspective of like, this is a different kind of like, this is Tokyo, but this is not the Tokyo that you see on anime. Or, you know, like this is a really like more like different way to look. This is a different lens, and I feel like every dungeon tries to explore a different aspect of society that a lot of people are like really, especially Japanese, because this is also something that people don't consider. Sure, the West is like super open about the thing. Hell, we have a name for like, you know, that when politicians take a bribe here in the US, they don't call it a bribe. You know, like they're like what are they doing?
Lobbyists.
Yeah, they're lobbyists. You know, like we have a word for that to make it sound nicer. You know, like, but like think about like in Japan, you know, like their social structure is so much like marked together that people actually criticizing the government is not usually seen as a good thing. You know, like they want you to fit in. You're supposed to fit in a specific spot, and you're supposed to stick in that spot, because if you kind of stand out, it's not good. You know, like, and this game really explores a lot of these things, and I get it to a lot of like the Western artisans that just goes over their head, because it's not, they're not used to that. It doesn't happen in the US. I'm sure like maybe to some specific people it does, but like in a broad sense, it's not really. It doesn't really click to a lot of people, I think.
I just feel like there's like a kind of something that came to my mind with that before you continue, like. Just the detail that I believe this is the only Persona game that takes place in like a specific real life location.
Right, yeah.
It's like very much more so trying to ground itself in reality, even though, you know, it's Persona and they're like demons.
Right. They're like, they go into the subconscious of people's brains and modify their consciousness into and like, if you really think about it, they do some pretty interesting stuff with the concepts that they work with, but outside of those fantasy elements, there is a lot of criticism, there's a lot of talk. This game is a really good like case study of like how Japanese that are, you know, like that can see like outside of their society and how they look at it. Because it's not all pretty. I think a lot of people in any country, like when they look at Japan, especially like the weebs, like I'm not gonna like I've been a weeb, you know, like I've been in that phase of like, oh, you know, Japan is like the best country, or you know, kinds of stuff like that. But you look at it from like a different lens, or from their perspective, and like you see it, I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of fucked up shit that's going on in any country, right?
You think of, because I've talked about this a lot with friends, it's like you think of the people who will be like, yeah, or like my country sucks, I want to move to like Canada or Australia or Japan or whatever. And it's like, you don't realize that every single country has equally comparable problems. They're just different.
Right. Yeah, like I've seen some people like talk about, especially like on United States. Whenever Trump won, for example, I'm not gonna get into politics here, but there was a like big chunk of people that were like, "Oh man, I'm just gonna move to Canada." But then you see it from like both perspectives of like people in Canada being like, "Yeah, you know, like there's also racism, and there's also
racism in Canada still is there. It's just targeted towards a different group of people,
right?
To a more blatant degree, arguably.
Right. I've seen crazy videos on like YouTube and stuff. Like there's even I've seen even there's like this TV show that I saw the other day. It was like Canadian Rednecks. I don't remember what the name of the video is, but it was like, oh my god, I was like, that's interesting. But anyway, so like every country has their own issues. Like I feel like the saying, the grass is greener on the other side. It's always so true, because you don't really see their like the struggles. You just see the anime. You just see like the internet memes of like, oh, like Canada is like, oh, everybody's so nice because that's the meme, right? Or whenever people are like, oh, where are the subtitles in Japan? Like when you go to Japan and there are no subtitles, or like shit like that. Like that's like, that really just shows that people just think of Japan like this mythical country. Like,
yeah, because people don't live outside of their own like little cultural bubble.
Yeah.
I find it funny, I guess kind of on the note of that, is like people point at Shido in P5 and they're like, wow, he's so like unrealistic and like just so like cartoonishly like corrupt. It's like, that's not really unrealistic. Like, played up, yes, but like there are like, even like Kamoshida, like people like Kamoshida, Madarama, like every villain there, even like Kaneshiro, there are people pretty true to life with all of those.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, again, it's just the limits of like, one, it may be age, but also like the limits of like the kind of culture that you live in. But like I've seen people like Kamoshida. Hell, you hear him on the news all the time. The teacher that sexually abused a student or whatever. It's just like sometimes I feel like you hear it on the news, so because it's just here in the news, it's like, oh, it doesn't really happen to a lot of people. It's in the news, like it happened to somebody or whatever. But like, I've seen like people talking about like how cartoonish it is, but like no, like there's some situations like I don't know, like to me, like I never was like, oh man, Kamoshida is so funny. He's like a cartoon of a person. No, like there's like some of the stuff that he does is really really messed up. Like not even some, a lot of the stuff that happens throughout that. It's really impactful. I think that they did a pretty good job as portraying some of that stuff. Like I remember in my high school, years later, like I had graduated, but I heard that one of my teachers went to jail, and I was like,
oh yeah, no, same.
And what happened is she apparently, I guess she received a complaint that a teacher was sexually abusing a student. And she, I guess, didn't believe the student, so she didn't say anything. So
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. So whenever it did come up and people found out that it was true and the student was sexually abused, she went to jail as an accomplice because she didn't speak up when there was a need to. And that kind of stuff, like in the game, like that's the situation. Like people don't believe the kids in the group, so they stop talking about it. You go around. There's like this mission where you go around. You're like trying to get information from the different students. Like, oh, are you being abused? And like they don't even want to talk about it, although you see them beaten up. Yeah.
I find it interesting because like, and this isn't. It's not a slight to P3 at all. It's actually a praise for it. But like people, praise a lot Nyx at the end of P3. Like, kind of the role they fill in, like this representation of death and accepting death and kind of that role it fills. And then for P5, there is a large, I don't know if it's a majority because I don't know. Twitter is very contrarian a lot of the time. But like they dismiss that final arc. And I even know Spencer outright hates that final arc of just like, oh yeah, random like dumb god at the end doesn't really mean anything. It's just another tacked on thing after Shido. And I'm like, it's no different than Nyx. Like it's representative of the greater theme of just like the people who literally just let stuff like this pass because it's easier to just stand down and live in your comfortable life while everyone else is dealing with their things and just remaining in that kind of like slothful bubble, as they kind of put it. Relying on a greater force.
I think it's just the way that they will. I feel like a lot of people just don't take text as face value. You know, like whatever is going on in the screen, that's really it. But like something like Java Dot in Persona 5, there's really much. I guess a lot of people it's really hard to like, because when you're talking about Persona 3, for example, and they literally say, oh, she's the representation of that, or she's the goddess of that, you're like, oh, goddess of that, gotcha. But what is Java Dot, right? So like he's like, they represent the desire of the people and everything, but that's such an abstract like thought. Like people know death because, you know, it means to die, you know, but what is like the desires of the mass? Like what does that mean to like a society? And I feel like that is such a what is the word I'm looking for? It's a meta question. Like it really means so much to different people, and at the same time it's like it's such a hard concept to grasp around. Like it's not just like the desires of like one individual. Like everybody has different desires for different things, you know. So like it's a really hard concept to like wrap your head around. Like, you know, like it's and it all falls again in like falling into line with society. You know, like we are supposed to do certain things, and sometimes it's so easy to like let society deal with things, and people are mad about it on Twitter or whatever, and like there's this many people mad about it. You know, like this really small amount of people, but some people just don't care, don't want to like put the effort into working on it. It's a really hard concept. I think it's a hard thing to like grasp around.
Yeah, it's less like simple and clean as something with P3. One thing that I do like love about P5 though is kind of on that note is it is really the only Persona game I say, like other games have like elements of this, like it's particularly P3, but like it's really the only one where the actions you're doing willingly are like morally ambiguous. Like a lot of people go like, oh yeah, the game's just saying like the Phantom Thieves are right and like everything they do is without question, even though like whatever ambiguous thing. But like that game questions their actions constantly, and they take like all these precautions to make sure that if they're going to do something, it's going to do it like in the least damaging way. And then even then they will rush into a situation and screw up and cause like actual damage.
Yeah, of course.
It's like,
yeah.
And, you know, especially like third semester, it's like that's an actual like really morally ambiguous situation.
Right. I think it falls a lot in a lot of aspects that I feel like it just depends on that. My thing about this is I wish that we had a choice. Like if we had like some kind of decision to make, because there's two things. One, the game talks a lot about justice, but at the same time it's really unfair because the situations where you're thrown into that really out of your control. That there's a moral background, but there's also like you didn't choose to be in this situation. You know, like you only dealt with so much. Like you know, for example. But then on the other hand, you have the situation with like Okumura from the palace and everything, where they were really set up to go after Okumura for a reason. Like this is all a setup. But because it was
basically their own like hubris that led them right into that trap.
Right, exactly. But they were sitting so into the you know, like we're the Phantom Thieves and everything's going great and we're like superheroes and everything, and the game recognizes that they know that they fucked up. You know, like they know they made a mistake on that, and it's like I don't feel like necessarily they feel morally higher than everything. And that's actually a video that I think I talked to you about that I'm still working on. I want to do a video on talking about like justice and what it means in Persona 5, because it's really ambiguous, and I love that ambiguity between like somebody like Akechi who really talks about justice a few times, and
that's the thing, because a lot of people get annoyed about P5, like where they're like, oh yeah, like they say the Phantom Thieves are right and I have to do what the Phantom Thieves are saying, but what if I disagree? And I get it, because again, it is morally ambiguous, that's intentional, but ultimately to tell a story like this, you have to, even if you disagree with it, you have to be able to follow a focal character who does have this like ideology or like this viewpoint of justice and see how they play through it, even if they themselves are not sure like fully about it. And I think it's really freaking good.
I don't know. I think the issue to me is this. The game tries to do two things at the same time. It tries to make you feel there's like this illusion of choice that the game presents you. You know, like you go around, you select your choices for your conversations and everything like that. But at the same time, you're pushed into this particular scenario where you don't have a choice. You know, like and the game just kind of expects you to kind of roll with it. I personally would like to either one or two. One, allow you to completely make choices, or two, don't allow you to make choices. You're really stuck in this road along the way, and you kind of just go through it. And I think like having a mix of both, it kind of confuses the player because I can see where it's really not, but because you have those choices, or it makes you feel like you have choices, you fall in that kind of like, you know, I understand that part. I feel like I wish the game will allow you to either have more freedom or no freedom at all.
No, yeah, I totally get that because like a lot of people, I feel like that is where ultimately we get to where people will point to someone like, you know, Joker being like a pretty, like they see him as like a self-insert, not really a character, like he doesn't have anything to it. But like Joker has established like background motivations and like an arc. Yeah, exactly. And because of that, the game, which I can see how this annoys people genuinely, it tries to ride this balance of, you know, you're an RPG protagonist. You're going through this very linear story, but it wants to give you like, you know, some variety, and maybe saying the right thing or like talking about this thing will give you like a better like chance to connect with different people, stuff like that. Yeah. So you're rewarded for, you know, how you interact.
But like at the same time, it allows you to choose endings. Like you have multiple endings based on decisions and choices. So it's contradictory. I feel like it's a contradiction between like what it presents you as to be, but at the same time, you're very much. I think Joker is the most personalized character. Before you even met Joker, he already made some choices in his life, and you're like getting in trouble because of it. Like that already itself presents so much character development as far as like where the character is already established. So there's like not much to go from there, right? You're like this, he's already setting a path.
So like he's got that established character, he's got that established path he's going down. It's just for some people, I get it can be jarring when they also, you know, want to make it like a game. So it's like, oh yeah, let's give like a couple different drastic kind of out of character decisions you can make, or you know, if they were to make like a misstep there, and like Joker kind of falls through. So it's kind of like, I get it. I still love Joker, but I can see the issues that come with that.
I think it's an interesting like character study on like the way they presented him, because I think one issue that people had originally in Japan about Persona 4 was that Yu was kind of boring, and because he was just he was the most blank character. Like,
he was just a self-insert.
Yeah, he's 100% a self-center, and everybody that is like, oh, but Yu's a Chad. No, my man, you play Persona 4 Golden, and you feel like the Chad. That's what happens. That's the whole intention behind it, and that's why a lot of people, when I do like whenever I do I did a main protagonist ranking, I'm like, look, I'm gonna be very blunt about this. Half of these games are self-inserts, so if you don't rank them in S, you just have bad self-esteem. Because the game's just you in this literally the name is Jew. Like this is as plain blank as simple as it could be.
So you know, I'll say I'm not gonna say that this causes like a character to be a self-insert or not, but I do find it interesting that in P4, the game where like out the gate people generally like you. You're like the new kid to school that like everyone kind of appreciates. That's the one where you're basically just a self-insert with no like pre-established anything. Yeah. But in P3 and P5, where you start out the games with everyone basically hating you on both.
Yeah, oh right, Persona 3. And the funny thing is, Persona 3, like, although you make some friends and you make girlfriends, you never really develop like this like super friendship with anybody where you're like, oh, this is my best buddy. This is my Ryuji. Like
you remain antisocial.
You remain basically like this guy that made connections with some people, but are they really like your best mates or anything? Probably not. Like I don't know. Like I wouldn't trust Junpei with my life. Probably in some scenarios. But like he's not
because like at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
the P3 protagonist isn't really there striving to have like any social impact. He's just there because he has a task to do.
Right. Yeah. It's a very different kind of story. And then Joker
obviously the whole like metaverse thing, but his situation is just stay out of trouble. Don't let my social opinion get wrecked, which obviously gets, screwed up by Kamoshida. And just gradually kind of like building up that like socialness and trust of everyone else.
Yeah, I think he does have an interesting character progression in the game, because if you look at the beginning and the kind of answers that you can give, I don't know if people notice this, but I did the second time that I played the game. Look at the kind of answers that you can do at the very beginning of the confidence, which is more normal stuff. But then when you get to like the middle and by the very end, you have all these crazy answers that you can take, and it's just because
it's a lot more like playful.
Yeah, it's because Joker is like more open, more himself and everything. But at the very beginning, he's like more reserved and like trying to like more like fitting and everything. But like by the very end, you see some of the more assholeish answers that he gives you, like more like tongue and cheek kind of stuff, and that's just because that's himself. Like that's more open, more playful. Like you get to be more yourself and everything. And I think some people are like, they always take those things are like, oh, look how like that's no good character development. I'm like, that's great character development. That's like you see a character progression just from answers alone, just from the type of interactions you get.
That's another thing I love about Joker, because like. This is something I didn't even know after my first like 2 playthroughs, I think, until I read the art book where it mentions that Joker's glasses are fake. And it's kind of that thing where like that is literally the persona he's putting on, and kind of like that mask in front of everyone else, kind of just remaining like more low key and like, to himself. While in the metaverse, like Joker, the Phantom Thief, that is him. Yeah, like that is kind of like that attitude he really has inside, just amplified.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. It's really well done too. Like you can see, like everybody gets their own outfits, and I don't think like anybody's like 100% shocked of like the outfit that they get. Like they're like, oh, I'll get an outfit or whatever, but they're not like, oh man, this outfit is like it doesn't reflect me as a person or anything, because like it's always kind of like a really interesting like way to like look at them and like the way that they react to themselves and everything. I don't know. Yeah. I love the game. I think that the game does a lot of really good stuff. It's still not like for some reason I cannot connect with them, and it may just be my age at this point that I'm like, yeah, I connected with the other games more. But I still love the game. I think they did so many good things right as far as like the writing in the game and everything. If anything, looking at the third semester makes me excited for Persona 6. I think the writing. Agree. I think the writing just I don't know. I know it's a different team, but it's definitely like they did so much right with the. And I'm like, it just gets me excited. I feel like it's gonna be such a good time.
Kind of 2 things that came to mind. Just like a quick note about the last thing you said. Yeah. So
so put it in perspective, like. I was in that age group, and that's probably why I connected so much like Persona 3 and Persona 4. I was just in that age group when those games passed, and it's like it gets harder to like relate in a backwards perspective. I don't know why, it's just weird.
Yeah, it just happens like that.
Yeah, I like now in Persona 5 I related more to like Maruki. I was like Maruki. Okay. I was like, it hit home.
That's another thing I want to mention is because what you said about like third semester, like obviously the moment I saw that and like the new director for Royal being like who's going to be directing like that team being in charge of Persona 6, extremely excited. What I like is like Persona 5, as we established before, had a much more. It's not that the other games didn't have serious plots, but it's like Persona 5 has a more grounded plot in terms of seriousness. Like it's trying to say something a lot more specific to like reality in an active sense. Much more high concept story, if that makes any sense. Like obviously like P5, it has morally ambiguous elements before that, but third semester is just morally gray, period.
Yeah.
I still have people to this day that are like, okay, but he wasn't wrong.
Yeah. You always see people fighting about like the stuff that they say and everything, and it's really cool. Like I love that. I find it that it's such a good like you know a game did a good job when people still argue about like what happened in the third semester. Like not only like in like the writing aspect, but also like the way they left certain things ambiguous and like really kind of like
So
leave
good.
you to think, like, oh, like even the other ending. Also, yeah, but was that really the bad ending?
No, that's the thing, because I just call that the ideal ending because it.
Right.
But like, I find it funny because, like we said before with Joker, like you'll have some situations where he'll make decisions that's kind of like because he has that active like. Or kind of like he has some options, but mainly he's on like one specific path. Some people are like, "Oh, he's bland generic." But when third semester came, that wasn't the complaint. The complaint that I saw repeatedly the second that dropped was, this game is kind of terribly written because it didn't give me enough of a reason to disagree with Maruki, and yet I still had to fight him. I'm like,
right.
I think that's proof as to like. I disagree that it didn't give a reason. I disagree. I think they made the argument split. And that's genius. That's really good.
100%. I agree with that so much. I think that the fact that they leave that so open that it really makes you feel like, man, I really want to think about the what the ramifications of your choices are. Like how that impacts the rest of all these people, like what Maruki did, and even his own background. Because up until that point, I'm like, okay, I know that he's doing it, and I know he has some reasons for it. But when you go through his own story and Rumi and everything, you're like, wow, there's so much to take in. Like. You thought you knew him through doing his confidant, but when you do his social, when you do his final part on the dungeon and everything, you're like, wow, there's like so much depth to his character, and I really appreciated that. Although, I definitely don't agree with like some of the stuff that Maruki does as an individual. I'm like, I love that they went that mile because it's not necessarily bad. Like you can never call him like a bad guy. Like I even find him myself like is he even the antagonist though?
I'm someone who like very heavily resonates with Persona 5, and then when it comes to like art, like I rarely cry. Like there are very specific things that get me like tear up or anything. Mm-hmm. There were 3 times ever in Persona that I teared up. One was the first time I beat Persona 5 credit sequence, when I beat Royal's credit sequence, and when I saw Maruki's backstory. That was the only time in the actual like process of playing through the games where it specifically hit that note for me. I'm like, crap. I'm dying.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. But I do have a question for you, and I'm curious to hear your opinion from a writing standpoint. If they had made, I know you've seen this before, but a lot of people believe that Persona 5 Royal should have been like a DLC, like additional content. If they had made it, do you think it would have worked or had the same kind of impact?
I think the issue that comes with that is because a lot of people like would dismiss it. They're like, oh yeah, it's just like one random, a couple more hours. Like it could just be thrown in. Ultimately, Royal reconstructs that entire game. Like it follows the same general path, but there's so much throughout that's like added in and changed and like redone that I don't think you could have just made it a DLC. It has much too big of an impact on how that game functions fundamentally, whether it's gameplay wise or story wise, that like I don't see it.
Mm-hmm. I kind of almost feel like I wish they had done a little bit more, in between the new stuff on the third semester, because I feel like there's a significant amount of time where you're like, oh man, I'm really playing the same game, but better. Until you really get to like a certain point in the story where it kind of kicks in and everything. I personally would have liked more not development per se, but like more involvement with Kasumi in the story.
I definitely feel it could have been a lot more natural. That's another thing. It's like, because I get where people are like, it's just like a random add-on. I get it in the sense that some of those things definitely feel more tacked on, and I do wish they did it a little more natural. Like
even the fact that like Kasumi is like, oh, like I want to join the Phantom Thieves because of X. I'm like, oh man, that's such a good storyline. Where is that gonna go? And it doesn't go anywhere, right? And I'm like, that could have been like such a great like storyline to have. Like she opposes the views of the Phantom Thieves, like, oh man, she could be like the anti-Akechi, like has somebody, a third party that has that's its own things or anything like that, and it really never really explores that. And I was like, man, that was such a good like that could have been a good end for Kasumi. Like have a third party that she does her own things, maybe she goes to palaces to try to stop you, or I don't know, whatever it could have been.
You know what? I'll actually say something I just now realized, which I actually think is really cool, because I was thinking, like, it is unfortunate that, they kind of set up, like, Kasumi as kind of having that, like, anti-Akechi energy of, like, not really, like, vibing with the Phantom Thieves, per se, and kind of, like, not respecting what they do, and kind of having that kind of, like, parallel to Akechi, but it doesn't really go anywhere specific. And then, like, third semester, we get a good arc for her, but it's like,
it's
not
like,
really that.
It's half an arc. I feel like it's just half an arc, because it kind of borrows. No, it doesn't borrow. It goes from Maruki's, right? Like she's directly connected to Maruki and everything, which is, by the way, a cool twist. Like I was like, that was one of those things that I was like, there is something off about her, but we don't know what it is. So when you said that was an interesting, clever twist or whatever. But I don't know. I feel like she was a really good opportunity for like a different type of character to be developed. Because of like she's mysterious, we don't know, like she's new, like some other stuff that they could have been such a well like written aspect of it that it doesn't really go anywhere. I was really disappointed about that.
Well, I was gonna say what I actually just realized that I think is actually really cool foreshadowing is because you have that parallel between, you like as Joker, Akechi, and her Phantom Thieves are doing, but doesn't agree with it, but also, fundamentally wouldn't agree with what Akechi does either. So she kind of has that in the middle spot, which is what best kind of like fits Maruki as that middle ground that neither Joker nor Akechi can really fit into, and both of them have like some reason to kind of like oppose.
Yeah.
I think that.
Yeah,
maybe it's looking too much into it, though. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a lot of potential on her storyline, which I'm not gonna say like I didn't hate her whatsoever. I loved what they did with her. I like Kasumi as like a
it just takes a bit until she like really hits. Because before that, it's like she's cute, I guess. Like she's fine.
Like, oh, she's cute and quirky. She's like the gymnast or whatever. That's cool, I guess. Like that was like the other aspect that kind of didn't even sit well with me, because like you look at the Phantom Thieves, like they're all a bunch of like the weirdos. Nobody likes them. Anne is white and nobody likes her because she's white.
I'll add on to that. Japan still doesn't like Anne.
Yeah. Oh, like that's the whole thing. Like. That's one thing that I feel like a lot of people don't understand, because I seen some posts like, I don't understand why in the game it doesn't make sense that people don't like her. She's beautiful. I'm like, yeah, you're not seeing it because you're white.
In Japan.
Yeah, like you're not seeing that because you're white and you live in the United States. So like you don't see like they're racist against her. Like, I don't know.
That's the thing. Like the only respect that Japan really gives on is there are a lot of really talented artists who draw on from Japan because she's very aesthetically pleasing. But otherwise, like she's not exactly appreciated over there much.
Yeah, like that's just like very simple. That's what happens. But I guess it's hard for people to like grasp up or something. But you see that. But then you see like Kasumi, and Kasumi's like well liked. She's like almost like the other character that she's like the teachers like to, like she's like role models to them. Like so like see her on that perspective, and you're like, oh, like. That's pretty interesting. Her and how she sees the world and everything. Because she does say some pretty interesting, like, her explanation to like certain things. I was like, yeah, that's stuff that I will say myself. Like when she's like, well, like it's not a feasible way to like look at society, because it's not like you can't just change the entire society every time some society has a problem. Where that story goes.
I'll say on something you noted there. Even though it's a more like classical character and like, the comparison could be, a lot more obvious. Well, I'm not saying like it is obvious enough in the game. It's just something like people would expect to be more generic. Sumi has like one of the most clever like personas in the series. because it's just that whole like you were saying, like, you know, she lives that alternate life where she actually is like respected on the surface level, and kind of has like, you know, all that kind of just like a completely different lifestyle from all the other thieves. But, you know, it's kind of like that Cinderella situation where ultimately she is wearing, you know, whatever like glass slippers given to her by the quote unquote fairy godmother, which would be Maruki. And once that falls apart, she's a completely different person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the allegory to her persona and to her character, it's better than a lot of the other Phantom Thieves. Like 100%. Because you look at a lot of the personas for the Phantom Thieves, it's like, oh, cool. They are thieves themselves. They're Robin Hood kind of characters. But how well do they relate to the character themselves? And
it's a little more hit or miss.
Yeah, I was honestly, like, I'll be a spoiler here. I was trying to do a psychology video, like exploring like their psychology behind each persona and like how they related to the different characters. But other than Joker and like some other characters, like, it was really hard for me to like pull the video through because not every character really connects 100% psychologically. And then,
that's
like,
the thing.
I'll just be like grasping straws there.
Well, because it is very cool that Atlas decided to go the route of, you know, like going like for the like thieves and stuff like that, and like different literature characters. And I think that's awesome. That's a really cool idea that I hope they do more stuff like that, of just like pulling from more clever places than just like mythology. Yeah. But it also means they had a much smaller pool to go through, which is why, you know, we even get to Sandriana. It's like, she's not a thief. It's Cinderella.
Right. But at least, like, from a story perspective, she makes sense, you know, like you were saying with the whole thing that he has with Maruki and everything. That all makes sense. Like that's whole, like, that's one full circle there. But then you look at somebody like Ryu with the pirate, and you're like, oh, he's a pirate.
I mean, I'll stand by Captain Kidd. I think that one's got some ties. I think we start getting into like maybe some weirder comparisons when we get to like Yusuke or like Futaba.
Oh yeah.
It's like
Necronomicon is the book.
I think it is a kind of genius idea, turning the Necronomicon into a persona. That's a really cool idea.
Yeah, it is. But the representation of it, like the whole alien thing, I do not like that. I'm like, oh man, even if it was like a book, or hell, if it was like, I don't know, some crazy thing.
I don't have as much criticism with the design itself. I think it's a cool direction to take it. I just don't think, like the original, I don't think it really reflects on Futaba, which is more apparent by... Well, first of all, it's not even like a thief or anything like that. It's just kind of like, I guess, forbidden knowledge.
Yeah.
Prometheus, which is the next one, is like a classic thief. But I don't see... Maybe I'll have to look this up later and see if I can make a connection.
Yeah.
I don't see how Prometheus connects to Futaba.
Yeah. There's a few of them like that. Like some of them are like Joanna, for example, which is the Makoto's, right? Like, there's some connections there. Like I can see like they're both like strong-minded individuals. Like I can see like, you know, like, oh, like, you know, like she will be the kind of person, you know, like Joanna, you know, like somebody that will like be just in like in that kind of sense, like, you know, like she wants to be a cop just like her dad, you know, like stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, just strong-minded ideology, like, despite like, the pushback from
like,
it all.
That makes sense. Like that's like a good, like the persona matches the persona user, you know. But then you still see some of the other ones, so like, oh man, other than Haru's, for example. I forgot the name of Haru's, but yeah, she's she's a rich kind of lady. She's a rich lady too. Like, so like other than some like connections like that, it doesn't really like will match like Haru as a person or something like that.
I'll speak on Haru's. I will say I don't think the actual reference really connects to her that strongly. Yeah. I do think the design does. I love that design.
Yeah, the design is big
fantastic. With the massive guns underneath it.
Especially when you do the attack for first time, and she just like pulls out her skirt and there's like a ton of bazookas. You're like, Ryuji, that's what I'm here for.
Himself.
Yeah, that science. Although you can say whatever you want or anything, but the signs are super good. I've always been a fan of the Persona designs. They always do such a good a job with them. And I'm always impressed. Every time I see them, I'm like, yeah, they did such a good job with that design. And I'm never disappointed with the designs. Like from Persona 1 all the way up until now, always been like, oh yeah, the designs are pretty cool. Which, speaking of designs on Persona, have you seen or read JoJo?
Yes.
So what's your take on this whole thing about Persona ripping off JoJo? I've seen it a couple times, and I only seen part 3 of JoJo, but it's nothing like Persona 3. So like I'm still confused on like what that like what's the catch on that.
So I'll say this much: I have no doubt in my mind that Persona 4 was inspired by aspects of JoJo Part 4. Like, there was a lot that game takes from JoJo Part 4, which I don't blame. Like, JoJo's is a super iconic series.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Because like what I seen of JoJo, like I was like Persona 3 particularly, and Part 3 of JoJo, I'm like, yeah, I don't see anything. Like, sure, they have stands, and stands are kind of like personas, I guess, which they're not, by the way. Like even on that sense, they're really not. Other than summoning them and using them, like JoJo's and stands, they are the way they are or anything. Like none of that is like the same or like close to each other.
It basically boils down to, because like I said, like Persona 4 takes a lot of cues from Part 4 of JoJo. Mm-hmm. People will take that and then they'll try and work from that answer and work backwards. So they're like, oh, well, obviously there has to be a connection. So, you know, in Part 5, all of them are like gangsters. They're in the Italian mob. And that's kind of like in Persona 5 when they're all thieves. and that's it.
I heard that actually. I heard that, but I was like, is that enough to like actually pull anything? Because like,
no, it's not. It's
not. I don't know. I don't know about Part 4 because I haven't read it yet or anything like that. So I'm still going through that. I don't know. JoJo is kind of, to me, it's kind of like I have to be in the right mood for it. It's not something that I can always like sit down and.
JoJo is interesting because it's like you said, it's got a very specific energy to it. That you have to like really sit down at. I will say, just kind of like chill it to you, Part 4 of JoJo is very good. Like, and I'm someone who went into that series kind of hating it and thinking it was really poorly written.
Yeah.
Part 4 of JoJo is, I'll make the argument, it's what it's Persona 4 but better.
Persona 4 but better. Alright, I'll definitely have to check it out. It's really funny to me too because like I saw people be like for years people will be like, oh, you need to watch JoJo, and I watched the first season, like part 1, and I was like, man, this
first season is
it's
trash.
rough. It's super rough. And then I tried to read the manga, which by the way, the manga art is from like the 80s. So like it looks nothing like the new art for the new JoJo stuff. So it was really rough for me to like get into. I was like, oh man, like I'm gonna have to put this in the back burner for like a pretty good amount of time. And then somebody was like, you should watch part 3. You know, like part 3, like it catches up with a lot of the stuff from part 1 and 2. And I was like, okay, well I'll do it. I'll watch it. And it was pretty good. Like I actually really liked JoJo. I thought it was pretty cool. But me in the back of my head, I'm like, man, where are all these Persona 3 stuff? Like, I really want to see that. Like, I keep watching. I'm like, there's just nothing there. I was like, well, I guess the stand's gonna be a thing, but I couldn't really find anything that I was like, yeah, this is a Persona ripoff. Or backwards, I'm sorry. This is they're ripping off JoJo here or whatever.
You know, I might make some enemies by saying this. Be forgettable.
Oh, shots fired there. Somebody's gonna be angry in the comments. I don't know. I can't say either way. I haven't.
Yeah, I know.
Although I interact a lot with the community because a lot of the fans from Persona are also fans of JoJo. So like I interacted with a lot of them, and I've seen a lot of memes too. Like all I know about JoJo is memes. Like I literally I've seen so many memes about JoJo.
Oh yeah.
And so like that's pretty much all I know. Like I knew a lot of the characters just from memes and everything. So it's like that's my interaction with it. So I'll eventually get to it. I'm actually doing starting a anime channel. Like I think I told you about this like months ago whenever I'm really like in the final stages of like pulling stuff out and everything. I have like a good stick set up and everything. I'm like almost ready to announce it live and everything. Obviously, I'm talking to you about it, and people are gonna listen to it, but nothing's official yet or anything. But I'm really excited about it. I'm like,
I hope it goes well, dude.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I really hope to have you there for a Toradora episode, because it's bound to happen. That crossover has to happen. That was one of the first anime that I watched on like the more like what would you put Toradora as? It fits in a lot of different genres, right?
Most people see it as a rom-com, like romantic comedy.
Yeah. I see it as that, but also there's like
I see it as a drama.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that the thing about Toradora, which I guess I want to talk about it so badly, because I'm like I never fell in love with a couple who knows anything about me. I don't shape characters. I'm not a shipper. I don't go for ships or anything like that. But the very first time that I watched the series, I was like, man, I just want them to get together so badly. Like
that's the thing, because the way they build it up is extreme. Because like I don't know if you knew this specifically, but that's like just my favorite show, period.
Yeah.
But like the relationships in that show across the board are like some of my favorites just ever.
See them, they're super playful. They're all like funny stuff. But then like you said, this is so like the drama. Like there's like so much about the characters and so much about like what's going on behind their lives and everything, behind the smile, if you will. And the more you get to know about them, you're like, wow, like there's like so much. Even some of the other characters that weren't less likable, like I forgot the girl that is like an idol. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people are like, oh, she's such a bitch or whatever. I'm like, she also has like a lot of like stuff behind her story and everything. I break down characters from like this like comedic relief characters to like super deep, and there's like so much about them that you're like, wow, this is excellent writing. It's like it's really really good writing. I know a lot of people write it off like that, this like rom-com, but the writing in the anime is phenomenal. It's like I will say it's one of those.
It's because I mentioned this in my video a lot, because it's kind of like what it's, I guess, predicated on. I understand when people, I guess, kind of write off the show to an extent, because a lot of the drama that happens is very like internal, and like you don't have the context for most of it. So on a first watch, you'll see them have like random reactions and stuff, and it's just like, oh, okay, I don't know what's happening, just like random drama. And it's a show that, because once you see all the events, if you actually go back through it and kind of see everything and how it plays together, it's just like this.
The way that they build up some really hints about like what's going on in their lives and everything. Like in the first few episodes, you see like the way that certain characters react. You're like, oh, that's a weird thing that they reacted like that, but you don't know the characters, like you don't know where it's coming from. But like, when the second watch, like you're saying, like you know exactly why they're reacting that way, like that.
Like, I will say on a note like that, I don't know how well you would remember like specific jokes from the show, but there's the scene in the second episode where Taiga confesses her love to her crush, and she says that she likes him outright. And he's like, okay, I understand. I hope we can be good friends. You and Ryuji are great for each other. I'm glad he makes you happy. And she's like, what are you talking about? What did I just say? And then actually understanding like the super complex and dumb way he took it due to like seeing his own backstory. It's like, that is such weirdly ingenious setup.
Yeah. The setup in the watching it in retrospective is really nice setup. I don't know. I just wish there was more anime like that. I'm not dunking on new anime, by the way. I know a lot of people that watch anime like, oh, well, what about this X anime or whatever?
All I'm saying, I've got like a billion, like friggin' not a billion 10 out of 10, but like I've got a good handful of like anime that are like near perfect if anyone friggin' needs any. There's some good ones, man.
What other shows do you like? Well, we're already here talking about the anime.
Oh man, I'm now.
That's always when somebody puts you in the spot and they ask you, "Give me your." I always try to get like at least 3 or 4 animes that are like on the back of my head. So when people ask me, like I can give them an answer. And I'm like,
You know, I've got the extra couple, like, I guess it is about 4 that are coming right to my mind. I guess recently, like, Ava's been prevalent again, and I didn't even. I always liked Evangelion. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I always liked it. I didn't adore it or anything. I don't know if you've watched the new movies.
Yeah, it kind of went around the original concept of the. But much better.
Yeah, well, because it adds on to the show.
Yeah,
like it's a direct follow up. Like
yeah.
I actually that retrospectively made me love that anime a lot more.
Yeah, I think the anime had definitely. Well, it went through a lot of things. It went through like development hell, basically. Those of you that don't know, the anime went through a ownership battle between different companies. So as much as they
anime had a horrible history,
as much as they wanted to continue and kind of complete the story, the reason why there were like all these issues and they had to finish it in movies is because of the rights. So, and the whole thing, the whole battle. I don't think it's still over. In fact, I think that you still cannot watch the original show in certain, I think like Netflix and that kind of stuff. They go on and off, and that's because of the whole copyright issue between that. And the bigger thing is Japan has really bad copyright laws.
Yeah.
So like that also like goes into like you see a lot of the things like I don't know if you see No Game No Life.
Yeah.
So that show is never coming back. The I don't know if you knew the controversy, but I think to start as the creator of that show is not Japanese. He's this guy from Brazil, which is pretty cool. But his original design for the girl, the little sister, he stole it from someone else.
Wow.
Yeah. So like there was this whole controversy and like it made it in the news, like even in here. But the big thing is that show is dead. Like Japan doesn't want to touch it. Kind of went through and I think it's still doing some stuff with them, but because of that backlash with the community and everything, I just don't think that people are ready to to see more of it. So like whenever I heard, I was like, man, there's just so many like the copyright works different in different countries, and Japan just the jump in everything like in the comics or on the anime and everything, and it's just because the brand, they really don't want to lose the Naruto. The name is Shonen Jump's Naruto. Like that's like that. It's even on the name because they don't want to lose the rights for any of those things. So like all the big ones like One Piece, it's not One Piece. It's Shonen Jump's One Piece because again like the copyright and everything has to be like specific to the and everything. I've been really interested on anime for like a long time.
Anime history is awesome.
My channel, like I tried to do anime content on the channel, but it's so hard to go around the copyright thing. Like it's like sometimes like I tried to do several videos and like I opted to just talk to the camera and I'm like that doesn't work for me because sometimes I kind of really want to show what's going on in the screen, and that's really what the hardest part for me right now. With the anime channel that I'm doing, like kind of like I'm devising a lot of ways to like be able to kind of do something with it and everything, but it's a rough process. It really is. So I'm even like trying to like request like some permission from like at least the American publishers to be able to like I don't care if the videos are not seen worldwide. Because even when you post videos, you sometimes see like I remember the first one that I saw, the first video that I did in of anime, it's blocked in 144 countries.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I don't care as long as it's seen in the US, like that's the target audience. So like as long as I can get like some kind of permission from like I emailed like a Beast Media, for example, and other publications that I know like that they publish anime for. I'm like, can I like what are the rules so that I can play the game with so like it's been a long process, but fortunately with social media and everything, it makes it easy sometimes to kind of actually find some of that information and kind of so like what they're looking for and how the algorithm is going to work. Not algorithm, I'm sorry, the bot that finds the copyright and everything, because a lot of the time it's really an individual going there. Sometimes it is the computer, it just catches it off. But sometimes later on, the computer kind of goes and catches stuff up. Sega, for example, will do that. Will like they'll claim random videos from time to time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm gonna fight you on this one.
This means war.
Here, like, I really don't think that I'm stealing any of the. I will understand if it was just like me re-uploading, like a cutscene or like really like not transformative or anything, but like. All my videos are really discussion videos or like reaction videos or something like that. So like I'm doing something with the content or whatever. And usually like Sega I've been pretty nice as far as like, oh yeah, like this is not a re-upload or something like that. So I think that makes more sense. Like if it's just like if they tell you, hey, don't upload the spoilers for a re-upload of it. But if you're like doing something with the content, I think it's fine. Which, by the way, I personally don't think that it should be the case. I feel like all content should be allowed as long as it's not like intentionally ripping off or like trying to profit on somebody else's work.
I mean, like American copyright law is friggin' garbage. So.
Oh yeah, they are 100%. Like we're talking about Japan, like the US has some pretty shit things too. Especially like I don't know if you knew this, but do you remember back when the internet started first? There was a lot of like piracy with like movies and MP3 music and like you will see these commercials all the time. Like piracy is not a it's a crime. You'll be penalized for that.
Sorry, it reminds me of those memes that
companies and everything. And I think they kind of ease it up a little bit on that. But then they realize they're not gonna get any money of the average person. I was watching this documentary actually on that subject, and it was really interesting because the guy talked about like a lot of examples. Like there was this lady that got sued for like $2 million on losses, and she was just like, this little girl, like she was like 15, and she got sued for like $700,000, yeah.
Okay.
And like crazy amounts of money. Like, are you ever gonna get that money from like this person? He's just some dude, So it was pretty interesting to like read about like the laws and everything. It was crazy.
It's like even like Viacom back in the day with YouTube. They tried to sue YouTube for like $400 billion in losses.
Yeah.
Which. Obviously, I don't think you can prove that much money in losses for YouTube piracy.
Right, absolutely. And I think YouTube did the right thing because some websites didn't and they died. A lot of people are like, oh well, how does YouTube stay afloat on because I think a lot of people see the easy thing. Like, oh, somebody else should make another YouTube, like another website to upload videos and everything. But like, do they have the infrastructure to keep like track of the copyright laws on every state, every country, or like in every state, and it's a lot of logistics that go behind that kind of stuff. They have to make sure that they don't violate any copyright laws because they could get sued and you could get sued for that. So like there's a lot of stuff that it's really hard to just consider. I think there's a lot of moving parts to that. Like personally, I would like to see another YouTube so YouTube can get their shit together. But also, I understand that there is a lot of the logistics behind what they do. That it's just really hard to kind of put through. I think.
Yeah, it's basically like YouTube technically isn't a monopoly. But it is.
And it's crazy to me when I see them doing things like the TikTok or remember when they do all that kind of stuff, and you see them, you're like, well, this is basically just like taking things from other social media, you're trying to adapt into it.
I don't see them replacing YouTube by any means, but if anyone were to like make an effort to like I guess, fill that role. I feel like TikTok genuinely has the highest chance of giving YouTube a run for their money.
Oh, absolutely. If TikTok, I'll say it here first before anyone else.
Yeah, I'll just post to both and see what happens.
Yeah, like you see that, right? I don't know, like I feel like even their algorithm works differently because you see people's TikToks and you're like, you always see like big numbers, right? Even like some rando just like posted a TikTok, you're like, oh man, just look at those numbers. Like,
that's the thing, because how TikTok works, like, it doesn't really matter how big your ingrained audience is. They still have a way of getting like different videos, regardless if you have like 2 TikTok followers or like 100,000.
Yeah,
they have about as likely of a chance as to get to an audience.
Yeah, and as much as YouTube doesn't want to admit it, there's definitely a bias that goes into it.
Oh yeah, the YouTube algorithm is so apparent on the creator end, especially, that it's like baffling.
Yeah, and I love how like I don't know if you get those tips sometimes from YouTube that gives you like information, like your questions answered. And there was this thing here talking about the algorithm, the myths of the algorithm, and there was one of them that said about like it not being biased and everything. I'm like, but you are biased though. Don't tell me it's not, because it is. Because technically a non-bias will be every single video is a 0. You know, like nothing matters other than the video itself. But the way that it works is, the reason why it wants people interaction and everything is because it's, look, well, the people interact in the previous video. How did people react to the previous video? You know, like there's like this context to it. You know, no video is over a 0.
Uh-huh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's just like either YouTube is just lying or they genuinely don't understand their own algorithm. Because one of the videos that like always is stuck in my mind, kind of talking about the algorithm, I don't know if you ever seen Nerd City, like that channel.
Yeah.
He did a video kind of talking about the algorithm and talking about how, like, with a massive sample size of like friggin' like 400,000 videos or something, putting the words like LGBT or like lesbian in it, like YouTube says, like, yeah, you know, there aren't like block terms or anything like that. Like the algorithm just works based on the content in it. But across the board, they would get like 99% of the time demonetized if they had a term like denoting LGBT, and not if it was just like something else, or like even related to like something with like heterosexual relationships or stuff like that.
Yeah. And
it's like, either they don't get the algorithm or they're just, it's a lie.
Yeah, I think they just don't know what goes on in the algorithm, because there's just an AI basically, right? It's an artificially connected to the internet. Like it learns things and it picks up things from what it sees. You know, that's why you see some people that shouldn't be there in the site doing well. Like some people that are like certain groups of people or individuals that are like really not friendly, like kid friendly, still do good in the YouTube, you know, because of that stuff, because it doesn't really care about certain aspects. It cares about what the reaction is like from a certain perspective, I think, because at the end of the day, it's all numbers for them. It's all about what they get, you know, like money wise, you know. That's how I feel about it. I mean, like, it's all about the money. You know, I don't think they really care too much on like what the content is like. I think they just really care much about like what the numbers are gonna be like. Oh, are people gonna be offended for this? Sure, but are they gonna click on that video? You bet your ass they're gonna click on that video. You know? Yeah,
it's
crazy stuff.
YouTube's weird.
Yeah, it's a really weird, like, the weird thing for me is that there's no other alternatives. Like there's really like I seen some like Bemo something, I don't know. And it's nothing like YouTube. So I'm like, then you see TikTok and they're like, that's social media though. Like to me, like I don't see TikTok as YouTube. I see it as social media. It's like a different kind of thing altogether. I don't know. It's a weird thing. I really sincerely hope that somebody else picks up the slack, get something rolling, but actually like invest on that aspect, because I think a lot of people see Twitch as like the new venue, like the streaming and everything like that.
Yeah,
but I think people still consume millions of videos a day on YouTube, so there's still definitely like a big audience on, like a lot of people consume news only from YouTube. A lot of people consume entertainment only on YouTube. Like, so it's still a big piece of the market. I don't know why people are afraid of or looking at that or something else. You always see this failure of venues of things going on, whether it's like streaming services or like other kind of I don't know. I see a lot of stuff. I mean that was dumb. Like how Twitter had its own streaming
Stories?
service. It had its own streaming thing too.
What?
Did you don't even know? Yeah, they have a Twitch kind of thing, and it failed obviously because you didn't hear about it.
I guess so.
Yeah, it did pretty bad. There was another one, and they even brought in like big names like Ninja, and they just didn't do well at all. They went bankrupt. So.
Oh wait, are you talking about the Microsoft one?
Yeah, there's the Microsoft one. So Microsoft did one. And then
I thought the one Microsoft did was the one that bought out Ninja for $4 million or something like that.
Yeah, that was a waste of money.
Yeah, they did not last a year.
Yeah, they didn't even last a year. Yeah, that one, and then but Twitter did have their own. I don't remember what it was called, but I'm sure somebody can find out later. But it didn't go anywhere either. And then the stories thing on Twitter, which it lasted like a month.
It was up for a little while.
Yeah, it
felt really short. It felt as brief as a fleet.
Yeah.
It was like 2 or 3 months, I think.
Yeah, and which I actually I don't know how the Twitter algorithm works either, but although you do have a lot of followers, sometimes the interaction in certain tweets is like.
It's just like it's like a boost tweet button.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much what I saw it as. I'm like, I need to
put in the fleets.
Yeah, put it in there. That's what I used to do. So I missed that. I thought it was a good idea, but I don't know. They don't have the brightest idea sometimes. I guess they
still haven't thought about that edit button.
Oh yeah, right. That's what I want. I want the edit button so badly.
Yeah, but that I don't know. I just think about the fact sometimes that they've never even bothered saying they're going to do an edit button, yet they added that feature where people just like can't respond to certain people's tweets. I get it, but like
that's weird. That's weird to me because if you don't want people to reply, just why even make the post in the first place? That's my drama. What's the point of that?
Because I understand it. Actually, for maybe like brands, but not. I don't know. It's a social platform. Like, if you really don't want people responding to it, like it's on social media. Either like make a private account or just like don't post it. There's obviously some gray zone in there, but I don't think it's.
I mean, people make like private accounts, right? For just like their friends and stuff. Like that's what a private account is for, like I don't know, it's an interesting thing. I don't really dwell myself too much in that kind of stuff. It's a lot. But what I do is the very first like 3 posts that I see, that's what I look at, and then I close it, and then like whenever I'm like the last person to find out. Like I saw a post today. It was like some hate post on who was it? What's her name? I forgot already. What's her name? What's this girl's name? Persona 4, the girl that is the idol.
Rise.
Yeah, there was like a post about like Rise, hating on Rise, and I was like, oh, there's hate on Rise. Like, when did this happen? I was like, I didn't know. Who is today's punching bag? Every day is like somebody's looking for an excuse to get upset at something. I don't know.
There are probably people who think I'm like trying too hard with it, but it is like from a genuine place. For me, like my goal recently has just been general positivity within the community. So it was just like posts like, you know, talking about like different characters who on Twitter like get hated a lot, like Makoto or like Rise or stuff like that. I think I made a post that kind of like, this one blew up a little, where it was like, oh yeah, you know what, all the Fan of Thieves are great characters.
Yeah. Oh my god, the backlash on that one surprised me. Like I was like, the negativity was like, what? But
interesting. So there are just some things where people just find the punching bag they dislike and
absolutely
harp on it.
I regret one of my actually probably my most disliked video on YouTube right now. It's when I rant.
Okay.
Because I'm not like, I can't really relate to them. So like, I think I probably had like 3 or 4 probably like 2 characters on S, and the rest of them were somewhere between like A and D. And I wasn't particularly hating on any of them, but I just went raw on them. And I was like, yeah, you know, like, this is how I feel about this character. You know, like, I wasn't shitting on them. I try to not be negative on. I don't really like to be the person to always like, oh, you know, everything is bad, this character is bad or whatever. I always like, if I'm gonna say something about a character, that pretty much my train of thought is, here's why I think this character is not as good as the other characters. I'm not even gonna say they're bad. I'm just like, okay, so like, this is why I don't like Morgana, or this is why I don't like. I always try to make like at least like an explanation as to where I'm coming from, and it's not like I'm trying to make an excuse for myself, but I really want to show why I don't like a certain character. I don't hate characters. You know, like, it will be weird for me to like hate a fictitious piece of work. Like I'm which I see sometimes people like, they legitimately do hate like this with a passion. You know, like
people despise Morgana.
I saw the Morgana tweet, and I was like, that is insane to me. Like, I was just Morgana's just a cat.
All I'm saying, one of the things I've learned the most with this, especially in like fandoms, is 2 lessons people can definitely take away. Is if you're going to criticize or, you know, say you like something, like, you know, people need to understand that art is not objective.
Right.
Because I got to the friggin' my Morgana tweet, and there was like a constant thing. It was like, okay, but you know, you have to admit, I think the way they put it, they're like, Ozzy, you don't have to defend everything about Persona 5.
Yeah.
You have to admit Morgana's objectively poorly written. I'm like, no, he's not. My least favorite Persona character isn't even objectively bad. Yeah. I think they suck. But, you know, like, screw you, Izanami. But, you know, there's an Izanami fan,
I think people just don't understand what objective is. I think a lot of people mean subjective.
People mean objective when they say objective. I just don't think they know what the word means, in the sense that they don't realize that art can't be objective. It's all based on interpretation. Even if there are aspects that, like, you know, in a work you could see, you know, plot beats that maybe you feel like contradict each other, or maybe like the theme is wrong or characters are inconsistent. But even if you have, like, you know, clear arguments for it, that's not objectivity.
I think there's a certain things that you can break down as like, it's a black and white scenario, right? But when it comes to like how good or bad a character is, it's 100% a subjective thing. You know, like, how much did you enjoy something? How much did you like something? There are characters that I look at. How much
do you resonate with something?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes there are characters that I'll recognize. There's some, she's not an interesting character, but you look at her character arc. You look at like what she does for the Sun. Like, you know, I think she's a great written character, but I like her personality doesn't resonate with me. Or like some of the other characters, Futaba, for example, she's a character that, like, I love her transition from being like this hikikomori to like how the way that she goes across, like she becomes more social and everything. The way they explore like social anxiety with her, the way that they explore the way that she like interprets her mother's death and like what she goes through and everything. There's a lot of depth in her character. There's a lot of like the exploration, but I do not like her character. Like the way that she talks and everything, I don't like it. I really don't.
She is my least favorite Fan of Thief. I still really like her.
Yeah,
but it's that thing where you can understand what makes a character work. You can like, you know, appreciate a lot of the values of it. You can love them, and even then, again, like with her, I still really love her character. But it's like there are some characters you don't vibe with, and then you'll have people who will have like those things that like maybe a character doesn't work well with them. It'd be like like you've said, like the P5 cast you think is well written. It's just you don't resonate with them as specifically.
Yeah.
A lot of people will take that and go, I didn't resonate with them personally. I'm going to work backwards from that and see, because I didn't resonate with them, let me find the things about them that make me not resonate.
Yeah.
And we'll just seek out the negative.
And I want to point out one thing too, because I know people don't understand that. A lot of
fantastic villain. People will go to that and be like, wow, really? You're saying that one of your favorite characters is a pedophile? Really? Like, it's like no, I'm not. Yeah. He's a villain. Like you can like a villain who commits genocide. Like, I don't personally like it. I would not go out to eat dinner with them. No, you're a horrible, despicable person. And that's what makes you so well written in this plot. Because you fill the role you're supposed to, which is being a dirty monster, and I hope you die.
Yeah, like I feel like just people just don't. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know that's exactly what I was talking about. Like sometimes people will pick out like a flaw in a character, like for example, Ryuji, with like the fact that he exactly, he's really part of his arc, and like by the time that he goes through Haru's palace. He really realizes that they got caught up in the whole thing about being the Phantom Thieves and everything, and like that's really part of like seeing him.
So like there's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah.
But there's this very consistent narrative people push when criticizing Persona 5 where they go, the characters aren't especially great because once their dedicated arc finishes, they don't grow or change. Dedicated arc finisher in both like Okumura's and Shido's.
No, I agree with you. I see that, but I also like there's also a point of me that I understand what they're saying. I think the scenario will be like this. The way that I feel about it personally. So I feel there are certain characters that get development in the story.
What I see it is, they have their main arc that you get obviously like in their main arc, and then as I see it, kind of saying before, I think each of those characters, you do see genuine, like, narrative growth from how they've changed in how they interact with, like, there's different people in Shido's palace. Mm-hmm. And then kind of the scenes you get with them in the Velvet Room at the end. Yeah. I kind of see, like, that, like, big change throughout the game. Yeah. And then the confidants, like the confidants, obviously, it's hard to, implement that into the plot. It would be, nice if that was easy at all. But ultimately, I think the arcs are like separated enough from what they go through mainly in the main story that it's not too jarring for instance, like someone like Ryuji to reach the end of their arc in their confidant, make that growth, but still fall into some of the trappings that he does in the plot in like Okumura's palace. They don't contradict each other. It's just two different.
This interaction that played out a little bit different, but also I also want to comment also too on that same vein. So some things, for example, people have talked about Futaba, for example, and how she goes through this like like she's hikikomori, wild, and she has social anxiety and everything. Those kind of stuff, although you do fight it off, it still always sticks with you. Like it's not like it's completely gone. And I feel like I've seen some criticisms with her, particularly on her confident, on her social link, and then on the story and everything. I'm like, it's not like you one day just wake up and like, well, I'm not socially anxious anymore. Let me just live a normal life for now. You're still gonna have that. I feel like people that just don't. They are not like they don't experience anxiety, don't understand. Like anxiety is never gone. Like it's still there. You learn to cope with it. You learn to like manage it.
I mean, I'd say that's how Futaba's handled though, because it's only her really opening up to the thieves. Obviously, she gets there, she hangs out with them. She's like a lot more like open with that. Right. And Sojiro obviously too, but most of the time whenever someone else gets involved, she'll usually like hide away, have that moment.
That's exactly what I mean. Like I've seen some people criticize that as being like, oh, but in her social link, she like she's more open or whatever. Yeah, but you gotta look at the context, like you're saying. Like this is happening with her father and her friends. That's
her social link is also literally about her trying to overcome her anxiety.
Yeah.
So like there's much more reason for her to be striving to be more I guess less anxious.
Yeah, exactly.
And kind of like get it past that.
Yeah, it's definitely something that, like I said, it always sticks with you too. Like I think I've seen people like kind of like argue that, like, well, like you see her resolve that issue, and personally, I do think that Persona 5 does a better job at the social link aspect than Persona 3 and Persona 4. Especially Persona 4. Persona 4, I feel like that's the one that, like, this social link happened. That was a thing.
I'm not going to say that P3 and P4 don't have, like, great social links throughout.
They do, yeah.
But obviously this is the popularity of P5, but, like, even within the fandom, there is a reason why P5 is the only game where people actually remember and talk about all the confidants.
Oh yeah,
like
I think there's certainly some of them, especially in Persona 3, that were pretty rough. 3, I can tell you, there were some of them that I was like, oh, this was pretty rough. Obviously, and I feel like that's also one thing that people think about. People will like to compare the game that implemented the social link. There obviously is going to be. It's like, that was like 10 years later. Like they had plenty of time to develop the way the social links work. They certainly improved them so much.
Good on P3 for having some banger ones, like freaking what's her name, like Mako. Mako's great. Maiko.
Which one?
The little girl.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Or like the writer too. That guy's good too. There were some that I was like, yeah, these are good social links. Like obviously there you have like the one fat kid in the mall, or like the Tanaka, who literally just steals money from you and gives you bad advice.
Yeah, Tanaka's a funny man.
Yeah. The first time I was so mad at him. I was like, this man just stole money from me multiple times too, and I'm over here being dumbass and giving him more money.
Maybe there was a sign with this Arcana being the devil.
Yeah, I was like, maybe something to do with that, right?
Oh man.
Yeah. Oh man, what can we do about that? So as far as you as a content creator, do you have any other plans for any future videos?
I've had a SMT Nocturne review in development hell for several months. That I've had a Persona 1 review in development hell that's literally been 50% completed since February. And then after that, I'm a lot more free reign to make some stuff. Might make some more P5 videos. Maybe one about Shido's Palace. We'll see.
Right on. So you got a couple different things going on. I hope to see your ideas on Nocturne. I would like to see what you think as kind of like your second, I guess, Shin Megami Tensei game. So I would like to see that. I'm excited for that.
And I hope all your friggin' stuff, especially the friggin' anime channel, actually like friggin' does well.
I'm banking on that. I'm ready to get that started. I don't know why. I've been excited to do that for a minute. I've been on the work for months now, but again, like I'm really trying to like make it as legit as possible. Like the first thing I did was the logo, and I was like, I really hope that like I found it's not a name that is obviously unique. Like there's a lot of people that have the name, but I'm like, oh, we can take over the name. Like that's fine. Just like I took over the mini channel. So it's called so it's called the Anicast.
Okay.
So it's like anime and podcast put together, but there's like one channel that has like 10 subscribers or something like that. So I was like, we're taking over.
It's a hostile takeover.
Yeah, I was like, we're just gonna take over. So like I was telling my friend, because I'm actually doing this with a couple of people, because I always feel like I'm better when I'm with others, as far as like more of a natural, like I think you were making a post about kind of getting that natural approach to like just kind of free talking and everything. And
friggin' good on you, by the way, for actually being able to record videos just by yourself. Like less scripted. Like I assume you have like bullet points for a lot of stuff you talk about, but like I can't even do that. I'll stumble all over myself and die.
Yeah, I actually barely do bullet points. I only do bullet points when there are things that I forget. Like there are names, there are names and there are titles to things that I forget. Like I'm like, oh man, what am I talking about right now? And so that's also when I stopped doing the camera sometimes, because I will have to do like almost like jump cuts, and I'm like, I hate doing jump cuts. So like, how am I gonna like? I need to fix this because I'm staring at the camera for like 2 minutes. And I'm like, what the fuck was I talking about? What was the name of the thing? And I'm like, oh shit, I can't remember. And like, so I'll have like a notepad zoomed in, with like a bunch of like the words or like something to trigger me. Like sometimes I almost do like a PowerPoint basically. But I just like 1 or 2 pages, and I'm just like boom, 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 and I'm like, okay, I got everything now. I can do it and everything. So,
hey, whatever works.
Yeah, it's I don't know, my it's funny because the way I get ideas for videos is I make thumbnails. So like I just have thumbnails, and like I just have a ton of a thumbnail. I think I have like 32 thumbnails. And sometimes I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna do a video today. I got it. I thought about it long enough. I just think about it. You know, like, and I'm like that thing. I just think about them. You know, like,
that's the fun. It reminds me, like, because obviously I do like more scripted stuff, so like it's a lot harder from just like I thought about this, I want to do it, to just actually getting the video out.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you saw this way back. I think I have in the backlog like 12 or 13, like something like that, thumbnails I made.
Yeah, I remember
in advance.
You made those thumbnails. Yeah, I remember that because I remember I commented on one of them. I don't remember which one was it, but it was the Persona one, the ones you were gonna do for the Persona anime, right?
Yeah, it was the Trinity Soul one. So I have thumbnails set up for every mainline and spinoff for Persona.
It's part of the grind, man. Sometimes it's hard, and the other thing is sometimes you just don't feel like it. Sometimes like the creativity, like you maybe like in the mood, like, oh man, like I'm about to just do this thing, and then you're like spreading the word about it and everything, and it's pretty much like part of like if you think about it, that's literally like social links of like connecting with other people and that kind of stuff. And I was like, when I was reading, I was like, yeah, that's straight up like the social links. so like I was like, is that why the social links are that? I don't know if it is or not, but I thought it was like a good, like interesting, like discovery that I was doing while I was like reading through, like, because I actually like I have a membership. This is like the weird me. I have a membership for like the psychology journals that, you know, because when I was doing research for school and everything, and I still get journals. I still read through them sometimes and everything, and you get a lot of philosophy, you get sociology, you get all kinds of other journals as well. So like I've been actually doing a lot of reading from like other journals and other publications about philosophy and everything. So this is a big video. This is like, I'll calculate it's gonna take me a minute, but I've been doing some heavy research for it. So
no, yeah, it sounds awesome.
Yeah, I'm very excited for I finish this video.
That checks out.
I'm like, I'm in no rush, but you can do some smaller videos as well, right?
I don't know. I'm gonna see what kind of more like freeform content I can do aside from kind of like how I described it earlier, instead of being just some massive animation projects. Just like seeing what kind of smaller stuff I can do that I still feel like, I guess, shares the core of what makes my channel appealing.
Understandable. Yeah, I think you have an interesting idea. It's just it will have to be like something that will allow you to do smaller videos without having to do the editing, and because there's a lot that goes into the videos besides just talking to a microphone.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people don't realize that. I think that people are like, well, Ozzy, where's my next video? I just want to see something funny or whatever. You're here like, man, there's so much that goes into that.
No, yeah, like the editing grind is I guess a small little note to leave for people in terms of like how editing works for like a video of mine, or just like most reviewers in general. About like 2 minutes of footage is like, if you're lucky, it's about an hour. in terms of editing. If you're making like a proper like more so edited review instead of just like putting like gameplay footage or maybe like some stills.
I seen these a few screenshots of how you do the animations and everything. Have you looked into some software for like easier animation?
I'm trying to figure out some, because like every video, which is something I've always appreciated, every video has had me learn like one or two new tactics that have like sped up the process of how I make stuff, which is always super appreciated. I'm trying to get more into using After Effects though, because After Effects I know is going to be like really helpful in, I guess, smoothing out how I get stuff done and just speeding it up. But for the most part, it is just I have all these really complex ideas for how I want to animate things, and it's not exactly it's not exactly gonna have an easy solution. I just have to deal with that if I'm gonna make it. If
you get a chance, you should check out the what do you call that? Sorry, I lost Adobe. They just released this new software called. It's basically, and so check that out. I did a couple of animations there for like the channel and stuff. So it's not super easy. It's not super user friendly, but it's a new software. It'll
get there.
It'll get there, but it's also like really like if it works well with other Premiere software. Like if you're using already Premiere, so. It'd be a good tool for you to when you look at something like Adobe After Effects. That one is more the animation of like effects and that kind of stuff, like movie type of stuff and everything. So check it out, definitely do, because I done some stuff there and it's not hard. It's really just
it just takes a second to figure it out.
But since you're already kind of delving into it, it may be a good tool for you. So the starter points is the harder part, but once you do it, you got it, man. I'm pretty confident that you'll be able to do some pretty cool shit there.
I appreciate the suggestion.
That may be the faster solution for you to do the.
It's the key to my freedom,
right? Because the best thing about it is once you have some animation saved, they're saved. You know, like you can always reuse them for other projects and everything, especially using your videos and everything. So, I'm delving around it. I just wish I had more time. You know, between like work and school and everything. I'm like, you need to play this game or you need to watch this anime. I'm like, you've seen the amount of stuff that I have to do. Because I did this video which I regret. I did this video 2 years ago called Persona Clones, and it was just a video talking about like other games like Persona that like borrowed some elements of the Persona series and everything. And in the video, I talk about how I dropped this game because I just wasn't interested, and there's a ton of comments just telling me, "Oh, you need to go back and play it, or you need to go back and watch the anime." I'm like, "Yo,
I don't have time.
I don't have time." And people are like, "I refuse to believe that you don't have 30 minutes a day." I'm like, it's not that I don't have time, but I have time to like, if I have 30 minutes, I'm gonna use my time for something else. You're like,
that's the thing. People complain having time where it's like you could do this. It's like, but is that really priority number one on my list? If I'm stacking everything together, if I get 30 extra minutes, I'm either napping or I'm like I'm finding some other excuse to just rest my brain.
Right. Or even if you had 30 minutes, like if you were to like choose between two things, let's say that you have an anime of a game that you already dropped, so your interest is already at zero, right? And on the other hand, you have this new TV show that you're watching or the new movie that you want to watch. You're obviously going to choose the one that you're interested on. It's just as simple as that. And then I was like, I may have been a little bit rude when I replied, because I was pretty annoyed. I hate when people force me to do things. So I realized that I was a little bit rude when I replied to the comments, and I apologize.
Okay, Bakura, you better finish part 4 this week, I swear. It's time for part 4 of JoJo.
Yeah, that's pretty much how some people are like, oh, you gotta watch it. I wish I could show you. I'll show you. You're talking about like, it's not like 1 or 2 comments. Like they like, there was like full paragraphs of like why I need to watch this anime. And I was like, yo, I don't even have time to read your comment. I'm like trying I'm trying to read your comment between my job and everything. So I don't know, like I get it. Like some people are really passionate and they really want me to check out like a game or something. But sometimes if something didn't click with me, I can't force myself. Like it's not that some people are forcing me. It's just I myself can't force myself to enjoy something that I didn't. It's really hard to click for me. Like I just, you can say that I'm not open-minded, and it's not even that I'm not open-minded. It's just hard to like get into something that I already tried and I just didn't. Yeah, it's just hard for me. You
might as well try and experience the thing that actually, is like landing for you.
Yeah, exactly like that. It's you. If you have between two things, you're always gonna choose the one thing you're vibing with. I guess if you want to say it like that. Like, I started a new show, for example. I forgot what it's called. It's on Netflix. It's an anime. It's really good. It's about like this guy. Have you seen Mirai Nikki? Future Diary?
No, I haven't, but I know what it's about.
Okay, so it's basically the same kind of premise. This guy gets sent an invitation in his phone for this kind of crazy battle royale kind of game, and it turns out like it's real life and people are trying to kill each other. But the kid
I've heard about this.
Yeah, Darwin's game. That's what it's called. Darwin's game. And
I've definitely heard about that. I've heard it's really good.
And like honestly, man, like this to me, that's good writing. When you can have one single episode and the episode instantly hooks you into the show. Like to me, that's really good writing. On the other hand, like if a TV show, I know it sounds like rude because I said that in Twitter. If a TV show is gonna take like 10 episodes to get good, it's just not good writing. It's just like either the pacing is not good or something's not clicking well with the rest of the story. To me, like 10 episodes it's a long time. That's like 4 or 5 hours of like content. It's just not entertaining or something. And even people are like, "Oh, it gets better." I'm like, it gets better is such a wild thing to say. Like, why is it not better now? So sometimes I get that things. For example, Madoka Magica. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
Okay, so Madoka Magica starts very deceiving. It makes you feel like you're watching another anime about a magical girl.
Yeah, and then they flip it on its head.
But it flips it on pretty hard. But it doesn't take 10 episodes to do that. It does it in a few episodes. And it takes the shock value. It takes that they're like, oh my god, this is crazy. And it builds up on it. On the other hand, this other show is also about magical girls, but it takes so long for it to get there. Like it does what Madoka Magica does in like 3 episodes into like 12 episodes. Like, well, wait until episode 12. That's when the plot twist happens. I'm like, yeah, Madoka Magica did it in like 2-3 episodes. Like that to me, that's kind of what I see. I'm like, well, why? I don't know. I can go on about this because it's like the one thing that I'm over here fighting on right now.
Yeah.
But I get it. People get passionate. I love the community too for that. People get really passionate about like that kind of stuff. I admire that. I'm not a passion. So like to me, I'm like I'm never been like like this. But I see people in the community get so passionate and so excited about just the fact that people gush so much about Persona like every day, and like seeing that stuff always makes me excited. Just seeing like how they react to things and everything. I'm like, that's pretty cool. Like I love it. I love the way that the community just kind of gets to. I admire that. That's the side of it that I like. I feel like a lot of people miss.
That's the thing. I will always care infinitely more about the passion that fans have for a work of art than my dislike of it. Like something like Xenoblade 2, like just a quick note, like that is a game that I really can't stand. But that game is some extremely passionate, adoring fans, and they love.
No, I get it. That game is extremely intimidating, and not for the right reasons.
Yeah,
I played the first game actually.
that's a very good game.
It's a great game. I actually really loved. That's also one of those things. Like I started like within an hour or two, and I was like, "Oh, this game's cool. You know, it's a typical RPG." And you get up until like the third or fourth hour when like the first like shocking part of the game happens, and you're like, "I'm sold." This game just immediately bought me on the idea of the game and everything. I was 100% sold into it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think some games just really do a good job selling you the game itself and everything. Others really don't.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's getting kind of late here, and I know you probably have some stuff to do, so we're gonna go ahead and think that we had some actual questions. We got some really funny, joking questions, so let's just get through this, and I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up for today here.
Sure thing. This has been a freaking great time.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like. It's really improvised here. I don't have no layout or anything like that.
Yeah, no, it's just a joke.
But yeah, it's been really fun to have this conversation with you. I've been meaning to invite you back into the podcast, but like scheduling is always a conflicting thing. Like it's just hard sometimes to kind of figure out a good time. Okay, but Mark asked if you were in charge of a hypothetical new Megaten spin-off, what will it look like? Game genre, story themes, etc.
A Megaten spinoff?
Yeah, I guess this could be Persona too, because this is Megaten.
Oh,
it could be anything, yes.
I wonder. You know, it's kind of a simpler idea, but like, I think it would be awesome. Like, obviously, people won't like Persona 5 Arena. I just think it would be awesome having Megaten Arena. Just give me some of the most iconic protagonists from all across the like franchise. Give me friggin' the main character of Devil Survivor, Flynn, Joker, like whoever. Just Rido, throw them all into one fighting game, see what happens. I think that would be neat.
That would be pretty neat. Yeah, I think so too. I always had the idea of this Smash game, like a Super Smash type of game, but with all the Megaten character. You know how that right now they're doing this Nicktoon fighting game or whatever? I see that and I'm like, man, imagine if they did that for Megaten. Like, you know, just drop a bunch of characters and let them fight or whatever. I'll be just dope. Like, I'll be down into something like that. I love those kind of games because they don't try to take themselves too seriously. They're just there for like the fun of it. Like to me, Smash has always been a fun party game. Like I've never took it like this competitive game. Although I know other people do take it seriously. And a Persona card game, I will be down for that.
Oh man, just whatever, man.
Yeah.
Just give me more good games, Atlas.
Yeah, somehow they managed to, even if it's just something dumb and weird like the dancing games, they're still pretty good games. Like they're still like outside of everything that I said earlier, as far as the dancing game and everything, it's still a pretty good rhythm game. You know, although I don't like the rhythm games, it's still pretty good. Like music's great. Okay, so the next question is, what are your thoughts on the new mechanics of Shin Megami Tensei 5? So, do you have any thoughts on like what we've seen so far for 75?
Honestly, this might come off sounding a little cheesy, I guess. It feels like it's mixing some of my favorite gameplay elements from both Nocturne and Persona 5. And Persona 5, the reason I mentioned that is the glory system specifically, from what I noticed, is basically just bringing the equivalent of like P5's Confidant abilities to SMT. And I think that's a really cool addition to throw in, because those are like one of the things that makes P5 really stand out in terms of its gameplay.
Yeah,
is definitely. Like actually getting those bonuses from hanging out with everyone.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that's gonna work out. They actually haven't explained too much as far as like what's behind that and everything. So I'm curious to see if they are not a social aspect per se, but I'm curious to see how they're gonna handle like the interaction with the other characters and what that's gonna look like and everything.
Yeah,
Because if you,
we've run around the school. I have no clue if that's like in the past or not, but
yeah, because friends, and we know that there's some kind of interaction with them because we see them in the story together sometimes, right? So like we can put two and two together, but like how is that gonna reflect in like a storytelling, like a gameplay like how's that gonna look like and everything? So I saw somebody talking about, well, I saw two things. One, I saw somebody talking about whether they have shown too much of Shin Megami Tensei 5, but I also saw on the other hand people saying no because it's been so well edited that you still don't know what the hell is going on.
I don't get the like. Obviously it's like, oh, some big moments. What the heck? And there's some crazy things in those trailers, but I don't know what the heck is happening.
Yeah, like even to this day now, you don't really know who the antagonist is. Is it the angel girl? Is it the red hair girl? Like the red dress girl? Like who's like what are we buying for here? Like that. There's a lot of stuff that you're like. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in here, but like there's also like a part of it that is like it's so really well made that you don't really know like what's exactly going on here. Sure, you can probably deduce some of it if you really sit down and like break down the backgrounds. You can probably put something together. But did you really want to go the extra mile and spoil yourself possibly on something that you may enjoy later in the game? Probably not. That's probably people are not doing those super in-depth crazy breakdowns we like putting all the trailers together or something, because also there's I feel like a level of respect as far as like let's just wait for the game to be out before but yeah, I don't know, I'm just excited for the game. I've seen stuff like the glory thing that you were talking about that looks pretty cool. I just would like to see like more of would like to see more of gameplay stuff. Like, what does that look like for us? Like, do we go to the school? Do we do things in school? Do we go to the dungeon? You know, like all that world or whatever. Like, what does that look like? You know, like I would like to see some of that stuff. Not as much of like, not as much of other stuff. The story wise, I feel like I'm good with story now. I just want to see like story bits and everything. I'm sorry, gameplay bits and everything. Yeah. Maybe even like unedited like stuff. I would like to see some of that.
Yeah.
You know, like they drop like 20 minutes of gameplay. They like when on E3. But it was like the very beginning of the game. You were like level 4. Yeah. You know, so like I want to see like mid game. You know, what does that look like? What, you know, like dungeon exploration. What does that look like or anything? Anyway, yeah, I think that's all the questions here. Somebody asked you for the origin of life. You know? No, somebody was asking here about the origin of life.
I'll figure it out later.
Yeah. And I don't even remember what the other question was. It was also some I guess a funny meme thing. I don't know what it was. Let me see what it was. Oh, did you know the Muffin Man?
Wish.
Alrighty. Well, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you everybody for coming in today to checking out the podcast. Ozzy, thank you so much for dropping by. It was fun to have you here. We had a really long conversation here with almost 3
it was
hours.
Fun though.
But it was definitely fun. I had a lot of fun talking to you. It's been a minute too, so I definitely appreciate that. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.